Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto wishes nothing more than to rebuild his home, bring back his family part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. 5 years later, and to this day the village that was destroyed by Iwa, Kumo, and Kari have never been explored or seen again. Iruka sighed as he closed that particular chapter of the Second Shinobi World War. While he was very knowledgeable of all shinobi wars and skirmishes that Konoha and the Land of Fire was a part of, he didn't like the idea that a whole civilization was wiped out from the face of the earth and they didn't even know the clan or village that was destroyed. It was like it was erased from history purposefully, and it was something that he would rather not think about, or else he will fall down the same hole so many other historians have done before him. Half the class he was teaching was merged with another class that had a lot of their civilian-born students drop out, and now their teacher, Kanoko Juno, was a co-teacher. They took turns in lectures, but he would have to be blind if he didn't acknowledge that her ability to keep the students' attention was greatly better than his, and while he knew more about Konoha's historical events, she specialized on cultures and clans, and recalled and explained much more about foreign customs than he ever could. He was silently grateful to have her with him, as she was able to clarify much of what they learned to very acute details, such as important names and dates of any lecture that even he would have a hard time remembering, and because of that they were possibly the best academic duo at the present. It was only fitting that their class held the next generation of Konoha's clan heirs. He looked up when he saw one of his students, Haruno Sakura, raise her hand. Yes, Haruno-san? Why did it take 3 of the 5 ninja villages to destroy a single archipelago if the clan was outnumbered, Iruka-sensei? What made them so dangerous that they were completely destroyed? Iruka nodded his head in silent thought as he tried to work out an answer to her question. Sadly, all of our curricular textbooks do not specify the destruction of the village or who they were. Even during the time when I attended the academy, nothing beyond the destruction of the clan was given, despite being told they were an ally of ours. No one has decided to question the lack of details because it is just a minor inconvenience compared to the rest that is required of you to learn. I am sorry, Haruno-san. Actually, everyone looked at Juno as she gave a playful smirk to Iruka as she leaned forward in her chair. I have access to a book that detailed the history of the village prior to these textbooks provided by the academic board of directors, but sadly I was not prepared for today's lesson and did not bring it. However, I can answer the questions of anyone who is curious about this event, even you, Yumino-san. Would you be able to answer my question, Kanoko-sensei? Of course, Juno grinned at the child and stood to her feet. The village that was destroyed was called Uzushio-gakure, the village hidden in the whirling tides, which they named after the unnatural whirlpools that protected their archipelago like a natural barrier. The reason that Iwa, Kumo, and Kari had attacked the village is quite simple when you think very little of it. As Yumino-san said, it is but a minor inconvenience, but the more you learn of it the more understandable the destruction makes in hindsight. The simple aspect of it is that the village housed people that were trained in Fuinjutsu, the art of seals, the most dangerous and least understood aspect of shinobi techniques, and they had made it to such a degree that they could devastate armies with a single seal without having to risk a single person. The long reason would take a whole day, so we will be unable to go into it today. Quiet words were exchanged among the excitable students, but another rose their hand. This time it was from Hyuga Hinata. Kanoko-sensei, what were the people? Did any of them possibly escape the destruction? Kanoko grinned at her favored student and nodded her head. Good question, Hyuga-chan. Yes, it has been documented by a small group of whom, radical Konoha shinobi and Hai no Kuni historians, I guess you can say, that the clan that lived in the archipelago have indeed survived in small groups and individuals across the elemental nations. Many have chosen to live in small villages away from shinobi and have hid since. Can anyone tell me the founding clans of our village? Norokuan, can you answer for me? The sleepy Noro heir, Shikamaru, glanced from behind his folded arms before sighing and sat up. The founding clans of Konoha are the Senju and Ucha clans, with other clans agreeing to support its formation. The supporting clans were the Aburame, Akimichi, Hyuga, Inazuka, Noro, Sarutabi, and Yamanoka clans. Those like Hatake, Kurama, Shimura, and others had formed from individuals and their families migrating after the initial formation. You are almost completely correct, Juno giggled at the baffled and shaken look of Shikamaru and the class. There was one who had helped the Senju and Ucha form the basis and the idea of a cooperative hidden village, even acting as the mediator between the two hostile clans. The name of the village is actually derived from their clan name. Can anyone guess? It was silent as everyone looked at each other, but Juno watched as Shikamaru slowly came to his realization and his head snapped to the sleeping blonde boy next to him. With a grin, she clapped for the young child and everyone looked at her. "Congratulations, Norokuan, you found it out." "Yes, one of the individuals who had inherently survived is attending our class, albeit very tiredly. The Uzumaki clan, the Masters of Seals, and the Summoners of Ancients." "What?" Everyone's shout had woken the boy up, making him startle and look around in fright, preparing to run at the slightest of hints of danger, but he instead was met with the stares of his fellow students. "What's everyone looking at me for?" "We were just talking about you, Naruto-kun," was Iruka's response as he was staring in shock, glancing at Juno. "Are you sure of this, Kanoko-senpai?" Juno chuckled and nodded her head. The Uzumaki clan are one of the eldest clans ever recorded, even suggested to have been formed before even the Senju, Uchiha, and Hyuga clans, but that has been very hard to prove with the lack of written evidence due to Uzumaki records being destroyed or stolen in the extermination. Naruto's eyes brightened when he realized what they were talking about. "I didn't know we were talking about Uzumaki. Why didn't anyone wake me up?" This time even Juno was surprised at the shout of the child, as no one older than late 30s had even known of this clan anymore. The fact that the last Uzumaki within the village even knew of their heritage was a surprise to her, as Hiruzen had made sure that the village, let alone the boy, had no knowledge of his parentage. "How do you know of your clan, Uzumaki-san?" Naruto gave a sour look, crossing his arms and leaning back in frustration. "Well, I did not know for certain that I was part of a clan at first. But some weird things had developed and I got curious, but even when I asked Oji-chan he would not tell me. I would have never found out if it were not for a group of traveling merchants that come through here every month. They knew of my clan and they shared what they knew, and by what they knew I mean they had a whole set of books on the history of the clan that they kindly sold to me for a generous 5 ryo. While the explanation Naruto gave was no lie, it was also not the entire truth. He knew that he had a clan because Kyubi told him when telling him about his parents. The traveling merchants are actually former retainers of the Uzumaki clan that come through to make sure that he is taken care of because he is the sole survivor of the main Uzumaki line. Others are either too far off or are not true Uzumaki. The retainers also swore their loyalty to him as the new clan head and are set to repair Uzumaki. Juno tilted her head in confusion but did not push on that line of topic. "Would you like to share what you know then, Uzumaki-san?" Naruto took a moment to think on the request, looking around the room to see everyone looking at him in surprise. Even Sasuke and Shikamaru were giving him their full attention. "I'm going to assume you briefly explained why they were destroyed in the first place. The Uzumaki were not only Fuinjutsu experts, despite that being the main thing they were destroyed for. They also had very long lives, the average age of death for them being about 170 years old, and because of that they are also very durable and have been noted to withstand much more severe injuries and recover easily. On top of that, they also had a unique ability to heal themselves and others through the consumption of their chakra. This unique ability is also what made the teams of Uzumaki even scarier than normal villagers. Back in their prime, Uzumaki would have teams of 5, which is where we got the idea for genin cells. Uzumaki teams included a Jounin leader, 3 ninjutsu and genjutsu specialists, and the final member would be trained to use just kenjutsu and support Fuinjutsu that would consume as little chakra as possible. This would conserve their chakra for the times needed to heal their teammates, and Uzumaki are noted for having highly potent chakra that grants extra abilities. They were also designated as the sensory agents of the team, but nearly all Uzumaki had the ability to sense chakra for a minimum of 2.5 miles. Naruto grinned as he looked up at Iruka, asking him, "I'm sure you're going to be proud of me when I say this, Iruka-sensei. Everyone knows how the Kyuubi is the strongest of the Biju, and that specific Biju has always been part of Konoha's long history, correct?" Getting nods from everyone, he laughed as he tried to contain his amusement of what he was going to tell them. "Well, a Biju cannot be killed as it is an entity of pure and very powerful chakra. Even our beloved Shodai Hokage could not defeat him. However, many villages realized you could contain and even control the power granted by these tailed beasts, and Konoha was no different. Uzumaki-san, are you sure you want to share what you are about to share?" Juno warned the 12-year-old boy. "It may be common knowledge for the adults, but your class is forbidden to have learned it from their parents." Naruto looked at the woman and shook his head. "If I'm going to be hated, then I want there to be a reason rather than be outcast just because some dumbass say so. As I was saying, the Biju can only be contained into children with undeveloped chakra because the power of a Biju will almost always kill an adult. The Kyuubi, especially, required a host with a strong body and will. Very few individuals can do so. However, it was my clan, because of their longevity, were the most ideal containers for the most powerful Biju like the Nanabi, the Hachibai and the Kyuubi. I am the third container of the Kyuubi within the history of Konoha. Looking at the class, he settled on a stare with Shikamaru, his best friend, who was silently and vigorously thinking about what he was hearing. My great-great-aunt was also a holder of the Kyuubi. She is also the grandmother of Tsunade Senju of the Sannin, Maito Uzumaki. She married the Shodai, and in her late 20s had to become the container after the Shodai and Madara's infamous battle. Then my mother, just a few years prior to the start of the Second Shinobi World War that would lead to the destruction of Uzushioga-kyo, was chosen. Hilariously enough, my mother also married one of our Hokage. Uzumaki-san, I don't think. My father, Naruto interrupted harshly as he looked at Juno with a glare to stop her from speaking, is none other than the man who gave me the burden. My father, the husband of my mother, is no one else other than the yondaime, Minato Namikaze. Someone who used to be my idol, is the very person who condemned me to be ostracized by my village. Naruto sighed as he rubbed his neck in exasperation. I have been condemned to this life, to protect the village against a being of incredible power, and I am feared and hated for it. Many civilians do not understand seal, so when they hear that Kyuubi was sealed into me, it sounded that I am the Biju given mortal form, which, mind you, could not be farther from the truth. Telling any of you this is basically breaking many laws that are supposed to protect me, and nearly all of them are punishable by death or life imprisonment. This time, he gained a fire in his eyes, and he gave a look to all of his classmates before standing on his feet. I am Naruto Uzumaki, heir to the Uzumaki clan, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and the greatest prankster this village has ever had. My goal is to bring back my clan and my home to prosperity, so be prepared to hear my name in the future because I will make myself greater than even Oji-chan. You better believe it. A few people began laughing at his ability to make the seriousness of the situation into a light-hearted promise of a lifetime, and Iruka and Juno watched with proud smiles on their faces. Good speech, Kit, but you may have just given Hiruzen a headache with you blowing the lid on your knowledge of your heritage. It doesn't matter to me, Furball, because I will bring back my clan and I will make them powerful once more. I can't wait for the harem. Wait! Harem. So, you passed your test. Yup. All it took was purposefully failing the test and tricking Mizuki into having us take the Forbidden Scroll, to which we copied and began using the jutsu that are written within. Correct again. To which we are then credited with defeating and capturing the traitorous Chunin, being paid for a B-rank mission for our accomplishment, to which we met Ibiki Marino and the very sexy and flirtatious Anko Mitarashi when he was handed over. I remember I was there. Naruto chuckled again as he brushed his teeth. Other than us finding the first of your future wives, we got ourselves connected with Konoha's intelligence branch to which we can work at part-time under said future wife. Naruto rolled his eyes as he rinsed his mouth, taking a moment to spit into the sink. Yes, harem is growing and we have friends in high places. You done? Almost, Kyuubi chuckled as he continued, and now, while being a genin for a few months under Kakashi Hatake, a student of your father, today is the day you and Sasuke decided that you want to C-rank out of the village for better experience. Of which, you will most definitely kill for the first time and actually be seen as responsible and mature enough to operate as true shinobi. Naruto waited a few moments. I am done, so you may answer. Yes, all of that is true. Naruto shook his head in amusement and finished getting dressed. He wore a black tank top over a short-sleeve mesh undershirt, black flexible, heat-resistant pants and black sandals. A very simple outfit, as it prevented him from standing out any more than he already did now that the whole village found out that he was the son of the yondaime Hokage. He hated how none of them even acknowledged his mother, who was definitely on par, if not better than Minato. Even his seals were only as good as they were because she helped him refine them, so he literally didn't tear himself apart using his famed Flying Thunder God technique. Another helpful consequence of his revelation was that he was able to be moved into his parents' home that they had locked up prior or shortly before their death trying to contain Kurama. After a bit of dusting and cleaning, he was able to make it livable and had spent much of his time looking over the books and scrolls his mother and father had kept from their career. He especially loved the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, something he has been able to master after he did what the book suggested and tattooed them to his body so that it was easier to use in combat. Good thing about seal ink is that when applied to the body, it disappears whenever it is not being used. With all of his training, and sudden spike in skill with ninjutsu and fuinjutsu, he was very confident in his abilities as a shinobi and was ready for the moment the Chunin exams came around in 3 months. Grabbing his large scroll of seals and equipment, Naruto checked to make sure he had everything before opening his front door to leave, but before he could do so he was confronted by a familiar baby blue whirlpool mask. Uzumaki-sama, the man kneeled before him and pulled out a scroll and a picture. "These are what my team and I found." Naruto took the objects and glanced over the scroll before pocketing it and looking at the picture. It was taken from someone who was hiding, if the way the picture was taken was any indication, and there were only two individuals seen inside. One is a man with dark hair, wearing a scientist's lab coat, but anything was hard to see as his back was to the camera. The other, however, is the one who caught his attention, with red hair and dark eyes. It was the red swirl that was on her purple shirt that was slightly obscured by the man she was talking to. Where was this taken? I do not know the name of the island, but it is patrolled by fire civilians and a small group of Konoha shinobi. Naruto nodded and pocketed the photo. He knew where he could find out. "Thank you, continue in your search. I want you to also check in with Team Alpha and find out their progress. I will most likely not be in the village for a month or two, so you will have to wait to inform me until then." "As you order, Uzumaki-sama," the man bowed once more before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Continuing on his way, he tried to think about where he left his trail of thoughts before he was interrupted. Oh, right, his team. That was a bad time when he found out he was teamed up with Sasuke and Sakura Haruno. Nothing against the Uchiha, but Naruto just did not like his lone wolf attitude and his condescending grunting whenever someone else tried to talk to him or tell him what he should do. Sakura, well, she was weak, she had no actual desire to be a kunoichi, and the only reason she stuck with the academy was because of her obsession with the last Uchiha. That, and her father would be damned if she didn't become a kunoichi. He loved and praised the ninja profession, and has countlessly confessed that if he was ever needed he would rejoin the shinobi force and even give his life for his village. Their teacher, however, was very good at keeping them together and not at each other's throats constantly. Kakashi Hatake, the last of the Hatake clan, and with no apparent interest to find a woman to continue the line ever since the death of his teammate Rin Nohara died. He was very skilled, scary if Naruto was to be honest with himself, but it was no surprise as the man had learned under Minato during the Third Shinobi World War. On top of that, the man was also Anbu at some point and was even the mentor of Itami Uchiha before the woman went rogue and killed her clan. Overall, he could complain all he wanted, but he realized that he got off lucky in the way of his team. He got an experienced sensei that would be able to teach them quite a lot, and his teammates at least showed potential to not be entirely terrible. It just took a while for him to get along with the Uchiha, but they found a kind of brotherly rivalry in their training, and he would have to be ignorant if he denied that it was working. Sighing from his thoughts, he caught sight of his team and that their sensei was also just arriving, still reading his book, but that was also to be expected. When they made it, he got an annoyed glance from Sasuke and an amused one from his sensei. "I see you are learning very well," Kakashi smiled as he spoke to the blonde. "Gotta pick up something from our time together, otherwise it may look like you're not doing your job," Naruto chuckled as he looked at the amused stare of the Jonin. "Anyway, we agreed that today we will be getting our first C rank and I wanted to make sure I had everything. And that we got a bit more sleep in instead of waiting for his lazy ass." "Too true. Well, come my little Genin, let's get our first C rank as Team Kakashi." "We never agreed to that name," both Naruto and Sasuke told the man at the same time, briefly sharing a look before continuing their walk to the mission office. Yeah, Sakura wanted to pitch in and, truthfully, that's all she could manage. "Fine, how about Team Kakashi-sama is so fabulous and his genin will serve as pack mules if they argue with him again." Kakashi glanced back at his students as he opened the door, his eyes smiling at them. "That sounds better, right?" "The first one was better," was all Naruto answered as he entered the room and looked to see Hiruzen inside. "Hello, Oji-sama." "Hello, Naruto-kun, Team 7, Hiruzen smiled as he looked at the team. "D rank, again?" "Actually," Naruto spoke up, interrupting the old man, "we had agreed that we are ready for a C rank outside of the village." "I see," Hiruzen sat back as he took a few drags of his pipe. "Do you agree with him, Kakashi-san?" "I do, Hokage-sama." Kakashi nodded his head without looking up from his perverted book. Hiruzen nodded his head and moved around a few scrolls before finding one. "I have just the right one. Escort mission to Nami no Kuni, a small area to the south of Hai no Kuni. You will be protecting Tazuna, a bridge builder, as he finishes his bridge into the mainland. You should expect bandits. And where is our lovely client?" Hiruzen pushed a button on a small receiver and leaned near it. "Hi, please contact Tazuna-san and let him know he is to meet with his escort team in the south entrance in half an hour." Yes, Hokage-sama. Kakashi nodded and turned to his students. You heard, Hokage-sama. We are to be at the south entrance in 20 minutes, so go get prepared and finish up all that you need before we leave. Naruto was the first to leave, and he made his walk for the intelligence division, where he was going to see if he can find out more about the woman in the picture. Naruto opened the door to the intelligence division and looked around to see the many Chunin and Jonin that are working diligently in their tasks. He avoided those in rush so that he couldn't be accused of being in the way, and approached the main desk with a single Jonin working on papers. Hello, I am here to see Ibiki Marino, please. Name, the woman asked without looking up. Naruto Uzumaki, Genin, he answered, causing the woman to stop and look up at him. Pleasure to meet you, Uzumaki-san. She rummaged through a few papers before finding one she was looking for. Marino-san should have finished an interrogation a few minutes ago and should be in his office. Do you know where it is? Yes, Naruto nodded and left in the direction of the man's office. It took a bit with how busy the division was, but he finally made it there soon enough. He gave a few knocks and waited a second before he could hear a gruff enter. As he did so, he found the man sitting at his desk while looking over a few papers and reports from many intelligence agents across the elemental nations. He had his bandana to the side, revealing the rest of the gruesome scars he received when captured by enemies. Good afternoon, Marino-san. Ah, Naruto-san, the man greeted, setting the paper he was reading on his desk. What brings you here? I need help finding someone, and I assumed that you would know how. Naruto pulled out the picture in his pouch and showed it to the man as he spoke. I am looking for the red-haired woman in the picture. Ibiki hummed in thought as he inspected the given photo. Do you know where it was taken? I only know it was on some kind of research island. The man nodded and set it down, writing a few notes. I can ask around the other divisions and see if they recognize it. It is clearly under our jurisdiction from what I can see of the scientist, but I do not know what it is. I will contact you as soon as I have an answer or not. Thank you, Marino-san, but I will be out of the village on a C rank for a month or two and won't be back until then. The man nodded. That will be fine, I will see you then. Naruto bowed in appreciation before leaving the office. Checking a clock on the wall, he saw he had at least 10 minutes before he was due to be at the entrance. It wouldn't hurt to be too early, at least it would give him a chance to look at the scroll that he was given. Kitsune-chan. Naruto turned to see Anko jump and embrace him in a suffocation boobs hug that left him struggling to breathe. Hey Anko! Can't breathe. The woman grinned as she pulled away from him, pouting slightly when he gave an exaggerated deep breath. Oh, come on. I wear a mesh shirt for a reason. Naruto gave a light glare at the woman but was nonetheless amused by her antics. If you're going to kill me with your feminine body, at least make it enjoyable as I go. Anko gave a devious smirk and leaned on him, so he was pressed against the wall, ignoring all of the looks that passerby shinobi were giving them, and lowered so that she could breathe in his ear. Is that an invitation? It always had been, but you missed the chance since I am going on a mission out of the village and will not be back for a month in the least. Naruto enjoyed the frustrated groan and pout from the Jonin. But when I come back, feel free to make it a game. Her eyes lit up as soon as he said that. You sure you want me to give me that much power? You won't be able to say no when you give me that freedom. Naruto chuckled as he decided to tease the woman and gave a long lick across her cheek before quickly slipping from her reach with a laugh. I think I'll enjoy it, Anko-chan. He, you're a devious one, Kit. Of course I am. And what makes it better is that she will only be able to think about that lick and the freedom I just gave her. The next 2 months are gonna drive her crazy. Oh yeah. As Naruto arrived at the south gate, he looked at his watch to see that there was still a few minutes of silence before the rest of his team would start arriving. Sitting down near the entrance, but away from others so that they won't snoop on him, he pulled out the scroll and looked around before opening it. What he found inside was a list of names and places, but it was some of the surnames that told him what it was. Nagato Uzumaki, Omega-Q. Karen Uzumaki, Kusagakyu. Yumiko Shu, Kusagakyu. Raiichi Fukui, Iwagakyu. Shishiru Katu, Kirigakyu. Naruto stopped reading as he glanced up to see Sakura closing in on his spot from down the street. It's a list of names of surviving Uzumaki members or retainers. Naruto silently contemplated this newfound information as he stood up to see Sasuke and Sakura arriving, as well as Kakashi walking down the street with an older-looking man with glasses. Team, Kakashi gained the attention of his students. This is Tazuna, our client. What's with the children? I thought I paid for ninjas, not babies. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the man's shout and couldn't help but feel slightly annoyed, even if he can understand his reasons for how he acted. He did not like being called a child. Hey, we are more than enough to protect you on a C-rank mission, old man. It's not like we're going to face other shinobi villages or anything like that. Kakashi held up his hands to prevent a fight between one of his students and their client. Let's not argue with each other. Come, we have a long walk to Nami and I'd prefer we get you there as soon as possible. While everyone nodded and began their journey for Nami no Kuni, Naruto thought back to the scroll that is in his pouch. I should see about getting missions to these nations and see if I can find them. Hopefully, they're willing to rebuild Uzumaki as well, or that's going to be a problem. Team 7 had been walking for a few hours since leaving Konoha, and it was dawning on the three of them that they were truly outside the walls of their village. Each of them had different reactions, and it couldn't have shown how far apart they truly were as individuals. Sakura was trying not to let her nerves get to her, and took to watching Sasuke and swooning over every small action he made. The last loyal archer, however, was on paranoid alert for their surroundings, but that has sadly made him fully aware of the girl's stares. Naruto, however, couldn't have been more relaxed to be out of the confines that his village gave him, but if any were to be inside his head they would see that he was celebrating like a maniac as he read his book on seals. He was practically dancing with Kurama over their newfound freedom. Kakashi, much like his blonde student, was reading his book, but to the trained eye, they could notice that he was glancing at his three students ever so occasionally as to keep an eye on them. He was silently taking notes and gauging their emotions, even the hidden ones that they did not want to be shown, and he was most pleased with Sasuke's awareness and disappointed in Sakura's choice of a task to pass the time. His most surprising student was the blonde, who, like with his arrival earlier that morning, was reading a book like the Jonin, even though it was not as magnificent as the Icha series. Tazuna-san, Sakura got the bridge builder's attention and jogged up to catch up to him. What's Nami like? Is it like Konoha? No, Tazuna stated as he took a swig of his canteen. It's very small compared to Konoha. There are only 100 of us in the village and we have made our living as fishermen and carpenters. We have usually relied on the protection of Hai no Kuni ever since the end of the Third Shinobi World War and Uzu no Kuni was destroyed. Everyone perked up at this, but no one was more interested than Naruto when he heard the name of his ancestral home. You mean you were allied with the Uzumaki clan? Oh, yes, Tazuna chuckled, the looks of his escorts going over his head. We supplied them with raw materials and even helped maintain their village, and in turn, they protected us from external nations like Kase no Kuni and Mizu no Kuni. But when the village was destroyed and its people killed, we had to ally with someone new and we decided to trust the closest nation to our north. But, Tazuna-san, Sakura pointed at Naruto as she told him, Naruto is from the Uzumaki clan. Not everyone in the village was killed. That got the man surprised and he looked at the blonde in surprise. Is that right? You look a little young to have been there during the attack. My mother was in the village visiting my great-grandmother when Uzumaki was attacked, Naruto explained to the man, getting a nod in understanding. Did you know any Uzumaki personally? One was a very close friend of mine. He was a tune-in during the Third War, I believe. The old man looked down the road wistfully, a small smile on his face. He died a few weeks prior to the attack on his village, however. I like to think it was for the best. I don't like to think about what had happened to those that were attacked in the village. Only the vilest of people can decide and go through with killing an entire people. Agreed, Naruto nodded with a grimace, only faintly seeing Sasuke nod his head as well, but without saying anything. Are you skilled with Fuinjutsu as well? Very, Naruto chuckled as he briefly showed the cover of the book he was reading. As you can see, I am well within advanced Fuinjutsu methods as well as theory and application. It was hard at first trying to understand what most books are trying to explain, reason I realized is fragmented or completely false, and have only had luck by using complete working seals. It's like an innate nature to see the intricacies of seals and their capabilities. I am still far from being a master, but I guess you can say I'm like a skilled jonin with them. Tazuna grinned and moved past Sakura to get close to the blonde, his hand grasping his shoulder opposite of the old man, and gave a hearty laugh. I believe you and I can get a mutual benefit of equal satisfaction. My bridge, while as perfect as any other I have seen, is built in a very temperate area and as such is very likely to have heavy wear and tear. I want to avoid that, so what I want to ask of you is that you are to put some of those seals to protect the stone, and in return, I will give you a few things from your clan that I'm sure you would want back. Naruto raised his eyes in surprise. You have Uzumaki clan possessions? I told you I had an Uzumaki friend, didn't I? Tazuna crossed his arms and sighed. Of course, I would give them to you anyway, as it rightfully belongs in the hands of an Uzumaki rather than gathering dust from an attic. I just request some help, that's all. Of course, Naruto jumped at the opportunity to gain something of his clan's. It is hard to find anything of the such, even when he has a team scouring and repairing his ancestral home, and his desire for anything from his clan has only been growing as the fruitless endeavors carried on. The man grinned in turn. Great! I really appreciate it. Naruto was going to answer when he felt his sixth sense going off and looked down the road. It was empty, save for 2 puddles of water. That's weird. Naruto slowed down, raising his hand to stop Tazuna as well. Call me crazy, but it hasn't rained in this area for a few weeks. Yeah, so? Sakura gave the blonde an annoyed look as she planted her hands on her hips. Then why are there 2 puddles in the middle of the road? Everyone turned to stare at the said puddles. Travelers, Sasuke guessed, but he was reaching for his kunai pouch as he spoke. Kakashi-sensei, I think. As Naruto was trying to talk to his uncaring sensei, he was stopped when a barbed chain shot out from the puddles and latched around the jonin. The 4 others could only watch in horror as the body of their sensei was torn to shreds, leaving them alone and to face the 2 individuals forming from the water. Kirigakure missing nin, Naruto said as he noticed the scratched-off headbands that showed their previous village allegiance. 1 down, one of them said. 3 to go, the other finished. Immediately, Naruto brought his hands into a sign and shouted, multiple shadow clone jutsu. 14 more Naruto sprung to life around them, surprising both Sakura and Sasuke. Group A, handle the bozo on the left. Group B, protect Tazuna. Yes, boss. Sasuke, we're going to the ugly bastard on the right. Naruto looked at the Uchiha and saw a reluctant nod to his orders. Good, let's go. Naruto slid on his knees to avoid the chain that nearly latched onto him and went to stab him but was blocked with the gauntlet before Sasuke joined in as well and kicked the man in the chest. Naruto ducked under the chain again, sending a kick to the man's leg before backing off to avoid the gauntlet once more. However, he could not avoid the chain again as it was deflected by Sasuke and he was sliced along the forearm. Oi, careful, Naruto hissed as he jumped back to glance over his injury, noticing a purple marking along the cut, before jumping back into the fight. We need to handle that chain. Naruto nodded in agreement, both of them jumping back to give themselves room, and looked at the 2 brothers once more. Naruto saw that his clones were barely faring against the other missing nin and they only had a few moments before he was free to help his partner. Once that happened, they were done for. I need skin contact, Naruto told the Uchiha. I have a technique that can end this, but I need contact with their skin. Sasuke gave a confused and annoyed look. Sure, let me just ask him to take off his cloak. I'm sure he won't mind. Naruto rolled his eyes. Be sarcastic all you want, I'm just telling you what I need. Sasuke grumbled to himself before huffing, fine. Ass. Naruto chuckled at Kurama's insult of the Uchiha as he created a few more clones and ordered them to reinforce Group A before he jumped in to help his teammate. He observed as Sasuke skillfully utilized a moderate distance between him and the enemy to avoid their attacks while also being able to land his own. What he realized from the attack pattern was that Sasuke was trying to tear away at the cloak and the clothing. Well then, I guess he's not entirely useless or prideful. He heard a derisive snort from Kurama but decided to ignore it and instead just lunged forward, channeling chakra through his finger as it made contact with the older man before diving to the side to avoid getting hit by the gauntlet. Gotcha! What the hell was that? Naruto Neri gave Sasuke a glance as he looked into the amused eyes of his enemy. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, mark. Complete holding up the hand sign for tiger, he gave an even bigger grin than before. Uzumaki marked Fuinjutsu, incinerate. Instantaneously, and just in time for the other hostile missing nin to kill the last clone, everyone could only gawk and watch as the man screamed and ripped away at the clothing he wore. What everyone saw was a set of glowing red-orange seal markings crawling over the man's skin and setting him gradually more and more on fire. Soon enough, within seconds, he was completely on fire, and parts of his body, his fingers and his left leg, had begun to turn to ash and his screams now came out as hoarse and dry air. Naruto was pridefully watching his clan technique finish the man off, leaving only the metal that he had on him. His gauntlet lay with ash blowing out as well as a few metal chains that he wore under his cloak and over his clothes. Perfect! You bastard! Naruto watched as the other ninja made a mad dash for him, and he watched in satisfaction as his sensei appeared behind the man and threw him to the ground. Before the man could move anymore, he found himself on his stomach, and in moments his arms were being pulled painfully behind his back. It wasn't until everyone heard two loud cracks that Kakashi had let go and stepped back to watch the man whimper and try to crawl away without the use of his arms. Tazuna-san, the white-haired man said before looking up at their client. "You have some explaining to do, HM?" The man backed away slowly, fidgeting and stammering as the Jonin calmly walked up to him. "I don't know, what do you misunderstand?" "What is there to misunderstand?" My fresh genin team was finally ready for their first C-rank mission, to kill a bandit or two so as to ease them into their profession, but instead, we faced off against a B-rank duo of missing nin from Kirigakure. Kakashi stopped in front of the man when he fell to the ground. "Tell me, Tazuna-san, what is there that I missed?" Tazuna could only look up at the towering man in abject horror before he gave a dejected sigh, covering his face with his hands. "I had to. I wanted to pay for a higher rank, I really did, but my village couldn't scrape together enough money to pay for it. We're desperate. That man is draining the life from my people, and more than enough people have died to his stranglehold." "What man, Tazuna-san?" Naruto asked as he walked up and stood beside his sensei, holding his injured arm. "Please, you need to tell us so that we may better gauge our situation." "Gato," Tazuna spat the name like it was the vilest, horrid thing he would ever have to tell them. Gato is the owner of Gato Corporations, a conglomerate of various businesses and investors. He came to Nami 5 years ago and had bought up nearly every business within a single year. After he practically controlled our industries, he began firing people. Then he blockaded our island so that we could not leave, and ever since then we had to live under his tyrannical rule. Sitting up, the man looked at Kakashi. "He's only just started paying for ninjas to kill me. I thought that after I left then maybe the ninja would have left, but I was wrong. Poor mortal. Seriously, it's like a whole village of me. We should help him." We didn't exactly struggle against those two, and we were even able to use Uzumaki techniques. I say that with enemy ninja that this trip got even more value than before. Naruto looked up to see what his sensei was thinking and was shocked to see the man contemplating abandoning the mission. "Kakashi-sensei, I think that we should continue on. Sasuke and I were about to handle ourselves pretty well, so I think that we can handle this." "I mean," Naruto grinned at the man, "we are led by such a fearsome and experienced shinobi, I'm sure nothing will get past you, so there should be nothing to worry about." Kakashi gave his blonde student a very skeptical look, but Naruto could see the hint of amusement that seemed to sway the Jonin into caving into his persuasion. "All right, I will have faith in my students and agree to continue." Only Sakura seemed horrified by the news, as Tazuna was relieved and gave his profound gratitude, and Sasuke smirked and stuck his chest out with pride. "Let us continue." "What about the survivor, sensei?" Naruto pointed to the crawling Chunin. "You said they are missing nin, that means that they have a bounty on their head, right?" Kakashi rubbed his masked chin in thought, nodding his head to his student. "They are the Demon Brothers. While one of them alone is only a Chunin in experience and abilities, their strength is really from their ability to work so well together that they have been noted to be defeating Jonins in 2-versus-1 matches. I believe their bounty together, dead or alive, is 70,000 Ryo. Well, if we cash them in, cold, as I don't want to worry about keeping the last one alive throughout our mission, that's a 4-way split of 17,500. Naruto just waved to the man, giving a feigned look of sympathy. "And look at him, he's suffering ever since we killed his brother and broke his arms. We should give him the mercy of ending the pain." "I second that," Sasuke nodded his head, turning to look at his sensei. "It would be better this way, and it would give us and Konoha a bit of infamy. Bounty hunting isn't exactly against shinobi principles, however little we have. But that would mean we have to kill him in cold blood." Everyone turned to the only girl in the group, her eyes widened in horror at what her ears were hearing. She would have never in 100 years thought that she would become an accessory to the murder of a defenseless and beaten enemy. "I didn't sign up for this." "Actually, you did," Naruto chuckled, turning to his teammate with a calm and serious stare. "You are a kunoichi, you kill when you are paid for it, and the only inconvenience is the price that we negotiate. Otherwise, you are a cold-blooded killer who will do this throughout your life until you quit or retire. Do not assume that if our roles were reversed, an enemy, him or any other for that matter, would take mercy on you and keep you alive. Unless there is something earned from keeping them alive or there is a mutual agreement to be made, there is no reason for us to let them live just to hunt us for revenge or because they were paid to. This is the reality of things, Sakura, Kakashi picked up from his student, giving a consoling look but not doing anything else. She needed to understand this or she would die. I do not say this lightly, but only because I do not want you to die for some false or convoluted romanticized dream of our profession. We are ninjas, this is what we do. It is decided. Sakura could only watch as her sensei walked up to the man, who began crying and pleading for his life to be spared, and her eyes caught the glint of the kunai before it was plunged into the heart of the beaten missing nin. Her mind captured the red blade as it was pulled out, and the man's dying breath stained the memory in vivid emotion, and she was so lost that she did not realize that Naruto had come up to stand next to her. It was going to happen sooner or later, Sakura, was his quiet remark. It seemed to be all that was needed for her to finally break, and she fell to her knees before her face smacked against the floor as her mind shut off. Naruto watched the girl passively, disappointment filling him at the weak will of his teammate. And she was the best Kunoichi our year had to offer. I would say that the shy Hyuga is better than her. Even has the backbone to prove it. So long as I'm not near her, Naruto chuckled to himself before crouching down and pulling the girl to a position he could more easily grapple. Pulling her over his shoulder, he maneuvered the best he could to make it comfortable for her and himself before turning to his sensei. He noticed that the bodies were finally sealed away and he nodded to the man for them to continue. I'll carry her until she gets a hold of herself. Anko Mitarashi, Hinata Hyuga, Yugo Uzuki if she's still single, Hana Inazuka, try to get a few foreign girls to spice it up. Hopefully that Karen Uzumaki girl from Kusa isn't too closely related, gotta have a line that's somewhat not filled with a bloodline. Why am I talking to you about this again? Because I wanted to remind you what was ahead of you when you finally got those ruins completely fixed. Naruto rolled his eyes at the perverted chuckle of the Biju. Who knew a being made of pure chakra could be perverted? Hey! Just because I don't have an anthropomorphic body doesn't mean my sentience isn't as flawed as you mortals. I blame it on being sealed into you Uzumaki. You guys have some weird kinks and stamina that lasts just as long off the battlefield. I do not need to know about the love lives of my mother and great-great-aunt. Naruto shuddered at the mere thought of whatever way or however long they did it for. It was too much. The laughter of the Biju grew louder and Naruto annoyedly cut their mental connection. Sighing, he glanced at his female teammate walking next to him, her eyes dull and staring ahead without a care for her surroundings or those around her. It has only been about half an hour since she began walking, and since then she has not spoken or looked anywhere but straight ahead. He also saw that her eyes were drifting away and not fully taking in her surroundings. Sighing, he only had a moment to realize that the area was much quieter than it was a few moments ago. Looking around, he felt a shift in the atmosphere so subtle and brief that he most surely would have missed it if he was not paying extra attention. Get down! Naruto heeded his sensei's shout and grabbed Sakura and pulled her back onto the ground with him, Kakashi doing the same with Tazuna, just in time to avoid a large butcher blade as tall as Naruto flying through the clearing. Looking up over Sakura, he could see the sword embedded inside a tree nearly cleaving it all the way through, and just as he got to his hands and feet a new figure appeared near the handle. Zabuza Momochi, Kakashi drawled as he got to his feet, pulling out a kunai from his pouch in confrontation with the new enemy. Copycat Kakashi Hatake, the man chuckled as he pulled the blade out of the tree and hefted it on his shoulder with the blade edge facing away from him. I wondered why the demon brothers failed in killing the bridge builder, and I can see why. Actually, that's me and my teammates doing, Naruto spoke up as he too got to his feet and was getting in position to protect his client. Sasuke had joined him and Sakura was slower to do so, shaking in fear of their enemy. I have to say though, isn't hiring one of the 7 swordsmen, not including the demon brothers, a little bit of overkill, or does your employer just have a lot of money to spend? The tall man chuckled in amusement, scaring Sakura even further as she felt the lick of a gathering mist encroaching around them. You're right, kid, and I can only assume that with Kakashi Hatake as your sensei you are nothing to scoff at. I would be inclined to agree with you. Naruto gave a grin and brought his hands into a hand sign, and brought up a dozen clones to blend into. I have to say, this fight would be better since you have less clothing than the other two. Naruto, Kakashi interrupted, pulling up his headband and revealing a Sharingan that briefly spun wildly. You, Sasuke, and Sakura will protect the bridge builder. If it looks like I may die, you all will run away as fast as you can and hide to make your way back to Konoha. Am I understood? Not at all. Naruto shook his head and he and his clones ran around widely while creating more clones, all shouting, "No can do, Kakashi-sensei." Before everyone knew it, there were nearly 100 clones up and down the road, jumping into the trees overhead, and running into the bushes and foliage. It all confused even Kakashi, who had tried to keep up with where the blonde was. He is cunning, I'll give him that. Zabuza looked around to see that he was surrounded by a lot of clones, and by even the briefest glance he can tell they were more than just a simple illusion clone, shadow clones, very impressive from a genin. Sadly, that will not be enough for you to survive. He swung his arm in a wide arc, tearing through a few clones as he cut the one that was approaching him from behind, and gave a bloodthirsty grin that caused the mist to thicken and obscure everyone's vision even further. Here is a little lesson for you, genin. Everyone except Naruto looked around trying to find the man through the chakra lace mist, but Naruto was paying attention to the man's attacks as his clones were killed one after the other. His clones were all trying to fight whenever they briefly saw the man, but his speed was incredible and he blended in the fog as soon as he killed a clone or two that none were able to get skin contact so he can mark the man. Every Kirigakure shinobi is trained to use this technique. He began speaking again through the fog. The silent killing technique developed to imitate the island of Kiri where the mist is the thickest and we train our assassination skills. The 7 swordsmen used this to even greater effect. Naruto substituted with a clone just in time to avoid the massive blade that would have surely taken him out. Aha, almost got you. Almost isn't good enough. Various Narutos called out to the man as they all substituted with each other to confuse the man a little more. I thought a trained shinobi such as you would know that. Laughter chilled everyone's spines as they felt it was demonic, but Kakashi and the Narutos were able to suppress it to a better extent. I like you more than others, how about coming and being my apprentice? I can always use another. Naruto hummed as he counted more of his clones dying to the man. I would accept such an offer, but I cannot leave my team or my village. And I'm paid to do a mission. What little honor I have dictates I must see it through. I am sorry. Silence greeted everyone, but they heard the deaths of more clones dying in the fog, which set them on edge even further. Then I will get rid of the obstacle and ask you again. Naruto's eyes widened when he felt the deaths of the clones that surrounded the bridge builder. He's going straight for them. He quickly substituted himself with a clone, and what he saw made him accept that it was the worst moment to do so. There you are, Zabuza chuckled sinisterly as he was face to face with the blonde. No, there you are. Zabuza whipped around as he felt numerous clones jump on him with a brief moment that he was stopped, and it took him a few more seconds to realize that foreign chakra was invading his skin. He yanked a few off and killed the others, looking at his body to see a few swirls grafted onto his skin with chakra ink. What is this? Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Mark, Naruto told the man with a grin. Complete. Zabuza watched as the boy held the ram sign, and before he could do anything, his body immediately felt like it was on fire and he was forced to his knees and dropped his sword. Black-purple chains of pure chakra wrapped around him from the seals and held him to the ground tightly so that he was unable to move. Unlike other techniques, it was restricting his use of movement and chakra, so he was unable to break out of the confinement, and as such the mist was dissipating without his chakra to feed it. Uzumaki marked Fuinjutsu, the chains of the void, Naruto clarified as he grabbed the sword and stabbed it into the ground next to the man. That was close, you almost had me. Zabuza looked around, the clones unsummoning themselves, and saw that he was defeated, and if he was honest he wasn't even upset about it. The blonde had a smart plan, no matter how improvised it was, and he had used a unique Fuinjutsu to defeat him. Congrats, kid, you win. I know, Naruto chuckled in response, turning to his sensei. What should we do, sensei? My Fuinjutsu works until I decide it doesn't. If it were to be removed without my permission, Momochi-san would die. I think that we can bring him with us, and when we finish our mission and kill Gato, we can let him go and he will have no obligation to kill us. Keep me like this that whole time and I will want to kill you just for that, Zabuza growled out to the blonde. I think it would be a good bargaining chip in case there are other missing nin, Sasuke spoke up, crossing his arms at his sensei. I also think that Zabuza can give us valuable information. Kakashi hummed to himself as he contemplated his students' desires, no matter how much he wanted to tell them no, but before he could answer he felt a new presence appear near them and he turned to see a Kirigakure hunter nin. They were short and because of the warm, baggy clothing, the only thing he could tell was that they were female. Thank you for capturing the missing nin known as Zabuza Momochi, they said as they approached the group, pulling out a few senbon, which was met with Sasuke and Naruto pulling out their kunai. Do not worry, I am just here to kill and return him to the village. Naruto narrowed his eyes and walked around the demon of the mist, noting how the man did not struggle but just watched the interaction, and he stopped in front of the hunter nin. He grabbed her hand suddenly, noting how she only tensed and sharply inhaled through her nose. Naruto, Sakura growled from behind him. Don't be acting like a pervert or I swear to Kami. Naruto just ignored her and rolled his thumb over the hunter-nin's knuckles and fingers, noting the very few calluses that were there as opposed to his or even Kakashi's. I would assume that your lack of marks and calluses on your hands is because you handle senbon instead of kunai. It is indeed, Konoha-san, she nodded her head. Why would my hands matter? Because a ninja such as yourself would have marks to show your experience and your battles, as the cleaner a hand is the less refined they are and the more likely such a person is a fraud or conspirator. Naruto left the suggestion in the air and traced his fingers lightly over the palm of the girl, smirking when she shivered at his touch. But I guess I am satisfied and am happy to let you take him from our hands. After getting her hand back, she bowed before him and gave her thanks before approaching the captured man and stabbing her 2 senbon into specific places of the man's neck. She paused when she saw that the Fuinjutsu was still in effect and turned to look at Naruto. I would appreciate it if you deactivate your seals, please. And I need to prepare for the ritual beheading, so I would also like for you all to leave. Naruto waved his hand, stopping his technique from working, and gave a small smirk before turning to his sensei. I guess we should continue on. Kakashi nodded his head in agreement. Yes, let's. The rest of the walk to the village was peaceful, thankfully, as it seems Gato thought hiring 3 missing nin would be enough to kill the bridge builder. It wasn't until they neared Tazuna's house that Naruto decided to speak up to his sensei and teammates. Zabuza Momochi is still alive. What? Naruto raised an eyebrow as he looked at his female teammate who screamed in horror with their client, but he was glad she was out of the rut that she found herself in. Maybe she can finally find it in herself to take this more seriously, or critically think about quitting as a kunoichi. You heard me correctly. But we saw him get taken by a kunoichi of Kirigakure, who happened to have tracked us just in time for when we were finding out what to do with him. Naruto interrupted Sakura before she could say any more of her assumption. It's not hard to kill for or even steal the headband of a village, especially one that you were formerly a part of, and that kunoichi seemed a little young to be a hunter-nin, and her chakra wasn't even on the same level of young prodigies like our sensei or even Itachi Uchiha. Sasuke twitched at the mention of his brother but said nothing and scowled to himself. He's right, Kakashi nodded, almost proud of his student's observation. I actually wondered if any of you realized it or not. I may be blonde, but I'm not blind. Naruto gave a blank glare to the white-haired man. But there was senbon sticking out of his neck, Sakura told them with a weak voice, looking ready to faint. There are certain parts in that area of the body that can put someone into a death-like state, Kakashi told her, rubbing his chin in thought. It is extremely difficult to do and requires immense accuracy, so whoever is working with Zabuza is clearly trained as a kunoichi. And a Chunin or Jonin level 1 at that, Naruto affirmed with a nod. That, and when I was feeling Zabuza's accomplice I was able to feel her chakra, and it was very much not to the standards of an elite shinobi like hunter-nin are claimed to be. I just knew that with how exhausted we were and how unknown they were to us that it was not smart to attack them. Why didn't you use your overpowered burning seal? Sasuke asked, speaking the thought everyone else had at that moment. Naruto was quiet, but by the smirk on his face and the distant look he had at the forest, it wasn't something he was willing to share. Let's say that my motives are my own for why I didn't just kill her. TCH, you really are a pervert, Sasuke huffed with a shake of his head. Naruto ignored the comment, neither denying nor affirming the claim, which only infuriated Sakura, but she took a few calming breaths. How much time do you think we have until Zabuza comes after us again? Sasuke asked Kakashi the million Ryo question that was on everyone's minds at that point. Kakashi hummed again as he pulled out his book to begin reading. I give him 3 weeks, that should be enough time for him to recover to satisfactory strength to comfort Tazuna-san. That will be enough time to start our training and stake out Gato's forces. If it's all right with you, Sensei, I'm going to go for a walk around the perimeter. If Zabuza knew our route into the village, I'm not putting it past him to have any other accomplices in hiding to strike us with our guard down, Naruto told his team leader, getting a nod from the man. Okay, don't wander too far off. Naruto waved the man's concerns off as he walked away, believing that anyone who worked for the Demon of the Mist wouldn't be as strong as him. However, he also needed the time to talk with the fox again, as he wanted to ensure he was ready to use a tail or two for what he was planning to do. After clearing a small area next to a creek, he created 5 clones and ordered them to continue with the perimeter sweep. With them gone, he took off his pants and shirt, setting them to the side, before making his way to a small rock in the middle of the stream with only his boxers on. It was partially submerged in the cold water, which served Naruto's preferences nicely. Sitting down with a shiver at the water's temperature, he made the seal of confrontation and closed his eyes before reaching within himself. Like always, he noticed 2 oceans of chakra within himself, but to compare them would also be like comparing a lake to an ocean. His is a large amount as it is, but compared to the Kyuubi, the strongest of all Biju, it was hard to call himself an equal in sheer quantity. The Kyuubi's chakra felt like Konoha's forest during a particularly sweltering summer day, feeling warm to the touch, and he almost recoiled at the sudden feeling. Nonetheless, he grabbed hold of the chakra and felt it envelop his own chakra, letting a leak through the dam to allow a sufficient amount into his system without eliciting the one-tailed transformation. Drip, it's been a while, brat, Kurama greeted as he sat back. How's it going, Kurama? Naruto greeted with a small bow, giving his fox companion some respect. I felt that this conversation would be better for us to have face-to-face rather than just exchanging thoughts. Understandable, Kurama nodded his head and sat next to the young blonde. What is it you wish to discuss, Kit? How much of your chakra do you think I am ready to handle? Kurama blinked his eyes at the sudden question, but instead of questioning the young boy's motives or reasons for asking, he looked down in thought. Depends on your willpower and control, to be frank, Kit. There's a reason why none of my containers before you have been able to utilize my chakra efficiently, other than thinking of me as a mindless beast, of course. Naruto shook his head in amusement at the grumbled afterthought, as he knew the Kyuubi felt sour after all these years that Naruto's mother and Maito looked down on him to the end. But I believe you are coming along nicely and would be able to utilize a single tail effectively. The problem with trying to control more, which we will have to do eventually to get you to use more, is intent. My chakra is a very emotional one, unlike the other Biju. So it's not normal for Jinchuuriki to go on rampages using their Biju's chakra. Kurama shook his head instantly. It is, and that's because a Jinchuuriki is not establishing trust between them and their Biju, so this allows the Biju to filter only negative emotions into the transformation, such as frustration, anger, and bloodlust. Those who are able to work with their Biju, such as the Hachibai Jinchuuriki in Kumo last I heard, are able to completely transform into their Biju and not lose themselves. Why are you so different? Because I am the strongest, Kyuubi boasted and smirked down playfully at the chuckling blonde. I jest, but it is true. Even the Hachibai, with 8 tails of power, does not hold a flame to me. But I am specifically embodying the negativity of the world. Every malicious thought, every selfish kill, every bad deed. So when you tap into my power, you feel my emotions, my anger, sadness, rage, and despair. Kurama paused as he decided on his next words. He hasn't talked to a mortal like this in his thousands of years of life, and it was jarring for him, but he felt something pressing against him and he looked to see Naruto resting a hand on his front leg with a small reassuring smile. Kurama was grateful for the kit. But for someone like you, who is a mortal, an Uzumaki mortal granted, but a mortal nonetheless, it is overwhelming to feel thousands of years of negativity. Compared to me, who has had the time to see it and process it as it happened. Then what can I do to control it? Remember what you are fighting for, Kurama answered with a serious stare. He raised a paw and pointed a claw at Naruto's chest. Do not lose this. Remember why you want to be strong. Remember those you care about, those you want to protect. Latch onto that with every aching fiber you have, because it will bring you back from the edge. Lose that and you will lose yourself, and I can't guarantee you will come back. Naruto was stunned silent and mulled over Kyuubi's words. Don't forget what I'm fighting for. With a determined nod, Naruto got to his feet and hugged the leg of the large fox, getting a surprised look. Thank you, Kurama. For everything. Kurama's face relaxed with a small sad smile and he leaned forward for his head to be next to the young child. Even with all the responsibilities he has given himself, returning his fallen clan, finding the family he has left, and preparing for those who would threaten him, he was still a 13-year-old child with no family to call his own. And through everything they had been through together, Kurama can say that Naruto is the only one he has ever been able to raise and call his own. A friend. A son. I know why the distance between your sons hurt you so much now, father. You are welcome, Kit. After a few more intimate minutes, Naruto left his mind and found himself back in the creek, but this time he was surrounded by thick steam. Knowing that it was because of the raised body temperature when encountering the aura and chakra of the Kyuubi, he didn't pay any mind other than a small grumble of how humid it was. Seriously, he was used to shaded, moist forests, not this. Getting to his feet, he made his way to where he left his clothes and slowly started redressing. However, he felt a new presence in the clearing and he paused in buckling his belt but finished doing so in case there was going to be a fight. This individual he could sense is powerful, easily as powerful as Kakashi, and someone like that isn't just in a small land like Wave. I know you're there, Naruto decided to say after not feeling the figure approach for a bit. Come on out if you're not here to hurt me, or if you are just get it over with and make the first move. The chakra seemed to crumble like a rock in angst before settling back down and they began their approach once more. Not completely lowering his guard, Naruto picked up his shirt and finished dressing before turning to see who had approached him. What he found gave him pause and he had to fully take in the stranger's appearance. She has short black hair and black eyes, fair skin with no blemishes, and a small frown on her face. She wore a red shirt under a brown flak jacket, fishnet tights under a red skirt, and brown sandals. She has the headband for Iwagakure, which confused Naruto further as to his knowledge Iwa was not allowed to operate in any of the Land of Fire's lands or territory. That included Wave. What's your name? Naruto blinked at the girl's demand and raised an eyebrow. Last I checked, you are the one operating in Fire lands, so it is I who should be asking you to state your name and business. TCH, the girl shifted into a more combat-ready stance as she regarded the blonde. I am Kurosuchi Kamizuru, Chunin of Iwagakure. What is an Iwagakure Kunoichi doing in Wave? I am here on a mission. Someone who slighted my village is hiding here. Assassination mission then, Naruto hummed to himself in thought but noticed Kurosuchi looking at him expectantly. Ah, forgive me, I did not introduce myself despite you doing so. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, genin of Konohagakure. I am here on an escort mission that escalated from C to a rank. Kurosuchi raised her eyebrow in surprise. It was not unheard of for missions to escalate in rating as parameters often changed, but what did surprise her was that this Konohagakure team decided to stick with a mission that was very well out of their expertise. But considering how many Kekkei Genkai the village boasted, and that this blonde carried himself with enough poise to warrant her caution meant that they weren't some green grunt team. What bothered her was his uncanny appearance to the one man that made Iwa shake in fear. A man who should be dead. Now while it is a problem to find an unallied shinobi in our territory, I believe we can benefit from each other, Naruto interrupted her thoughts with a kind smile. My personal mission is to help this village with their problem, who happens to be a very greedy entrepreneur by the name of Gato. Me killing him will cause many problems in the wider world politics as he keeps plenty of influential people in his pocket, and I may find quite a few of them against me, but I believe that it is the price to pay to help these people. Kurosuchi nodded her head in understanding as she would do the same if the village was as bad as it sounded. Undue suffering made her upset and oftentimes very violent against the perpetrators. Now, my team ran into Kirigakure missing Nin, and I believe that if you are looking for a shinobi, then it is probable that they are hired by Gato if they are here. Kurosuchi indeed was looking for a shinobi from her village. Someone who had been excommunicated following evidence that he was selling secrets to their neighbors. And you propose? Naruto chuckled and waved his hand off. Oh, while you are beautiful Kamizuru-chan, I am much too young to be getting married. Her face lit up like a cherry and she began angrily sputtering. Ha ha, I am just joking, Kamizuru-chan, Naruto laughed lightly which seemed to make the girl angrier. What I propose is that we work together in scoping out the forces of Gato and plan out our offensive in taking down our respective targets. I help you and you help me, so to speak. Kurosuchi stared at the blonde for a few moments, but a few warning bells were sounding in her head. There's more to your offer. Naruto's smile widened and he chuckled with a nod. Indeed. I want you to spare 2 of the ninjas hired by Gato. Zabuza Momochi and an accomplice working under him. They should be unable to do anything for 3 weeks after my team's fight with him, so we have time to plan and make our move. Kurosuchi pursed her lips in thought. Being able to kill the demon of the mist and secure his sword for her village would bring her honor and plenty of prestige, but decided that out of respect for her temporary partner, she would agree. Done. Awesome. Do you have anywhere to stay, or would you like to stay outside the building where my team is residing? I would rather the rest of your team not know I am here, Kurosuchi suggested, prepared to be denied. It was much to ask a shinobi to keep details from their compatriots. All right, Naruto drawled with a hesitant look. So long as no one sees you and questions me about you, I will keep our meetings private. It is appreciated, Uzumaki-san. Naruto nodded and looked into the sky. Ah, it is getting dark. I should go meet back with my team. We can meet back here tomorrow, Kamizuru-chan, and if I can't slip from my team I will send a clone in my stead to let you know about a change in times. Despite her embarrassment at his choice of an affectionate honorific, she nodded her head in understanding. Okay, have a good night, Uzumaki-san. Naruto whistled as he approached Tazuna's house, gaining the memories of his patrol clone slowly until he knew of every nook and cranny within 100 or so yards of the client's family. It's mostly wooded, but closer to the shore of the ocean is a small fisherman's cabin that is currently uninhabited. It'll be a good place to get some fish with the supplies, and Naruto considered himself a pretty decent harpoon fisher, and since a lot of the wave inhabitants seemed to be starving he planned on making a lot of fish soup for them to eat. It's not a lot, but Naruto planned to rob one of the food warehouses owned by Gato to give to the people as well. If asked about it he will just say it's to test the response of his hired thugs or something like that. It's not a complete lie, but it's never going to be the sole reason. And if any approach him aggressively while handing out food, well, let's say that self-defense due to reasonable evaluation of a threat to one's life is a very legal act. And if the problem is ever brought up to the Hokage or Fire Daimyo, they will side with their shinobi over a few bandit deaths. Approaching the house, Naruto saw that Kakashi was waiting outside on a chair while reading his porn. You gotta admit, it's decent literature. Naruto shook his head and rolled his eyes at the comment of Kurama. Of course, you would think so. Kakashi looked up at Naruto and lowered his book. The area is secured, and I didn't get back earlier because I had a conversation with the old fox. Kakashi nodded his head but seemed to watch Naruto as if expecting more. Anything else interesting? What do you mean? Naruto prodded as he wasn't completely sure if his sensei was asking what he thinks he was asking. Meet anyone, like another shinobi? Naruto nodded his head in understanding. How would you tell that someone is trained? Could have just been someone born gifted. Naruto, Kakashi interrupted the boy with an exasperated stare. Give me some credit and be honest. I can't tell you everything, but they're not hostile and as far as I have learned their objective aligns with ours. Naruto looked back at his sensei. Trust me, Kakashi-sensei. If anything happens, I will take full consequences. They do not know where we are, and I will make sure they don't find out. Kakashi just sighed. Why did he trust the blonde so much? Looking at the tattoo on the blonde's arm, a horned dragon head with the Uzumaki spiral above it with 10 connecting lines, he remembered the kid's trump card. His family's companions. Good morning, Kamizuru-chan, Naruto greeted the kunoichi with a bright smile. Hello, Uzumaki-san, she greeted back neutrally, already having gotten used to the boy's use of affection over the last week. What is our plan for today? Oh, you know, since it's our 4th date, I believe a nice relaxing walk to one of Gato's storehouses will be fun, Naruto nonchalantly teased with a crooked grin, making the Iwa kunoichi's cheeks flush pink. Then I was thinking that we kill all of his hired thugs as a warning and watch how they respond to a form of blatant aggression with some snacks and a blanket to keep ourselves warm as we cuddle. Ignoring all of his teasing comments with a blush, Kurosuchi was able to piece together their mission for the day and nodded her head in understanding. Understood. She didn't feel at ease with his crooked grin still in place, but it wasn't a feeling of danger or foreboding that bothered her but the butterflies and flips that were happening in her stomach every time the young Konoha shinobi flirted with her. It was harmless, as she was sure it was just his personality when he was comfortable, but it was also very new to her as back in her village everyone saw her as the granddaughter of the Tsukikage, so no one was brave enough to speak to her so casually or with any romantic feelings. She did not get around to finding out if the blonde is the child of her village's dead rival, partly because she was also afraid to find out. She wasn't sure what she would do if it turned out that the boy that treated her normally, despite their village's tensions with each other, put her in a difficult spot. On one hand, she does nothing and let the offspring of a one-man army grow up and become as much of a problem as his father, but she is able to act ignorantly unaware and find out where her feelings actually stood. The other hand, however, had her betray the mutual trust they developed to capture him and bring him to her village to either torture him for information and execute him as a show of revenge and strength or indoctrinate him as an Iwa weapon, which will make it impossible for her to be close to him since he will be nothing more than a kunai in human form. Nonetheless, she would not admit it to the blonde, but she was greatly enjoying her time with him and their collaboration together. They even took a step in their temporary alliance to share their goals for the future and their ideas on their strongest attributes. For goals, she found out that he is aware of his ancestral clan and wished to reform and rebuild not only his clan's island, but his clan as well. He wished to have a family since he grew up as an orphan and was lonely for most of his life, which made her sympathetic and approaching the topic of his father even harder. But their abilities and skills are something they have in common, and that's their prodigious skill in ninjutsu. Naruto admitted he used seals in combat more often than ninjutsu, as he also admitted his struggle in maintaining proper chakra control because of his insanely large reserves at a young age, which made it impractical to use destructive ninjutsu if he could accidentally overpower it and cause more harm to his allies. Despite that, they were able to share their preferred elements, she with fire and earth, while he with wind and fire, and she was even more surprised by his intense study into advanced chakra theory and elemental manipulation. She also had a feeling that he had the scorch element as he had alluded to it, but it could be possible he is keeping a few skills in his back pocket. While it did strangely hurt her that he would keep something hidden from her, she had no room to criticize as she was keeping her own lava element hidden as well. But it still hurt. Stupid emotions and stupid boy for making her feel mentioned emotions. Kurosuchi blinked her eyes owlishly when she noticed Naruto looking at her with a small kind smile as he patiently waited for her. I am sorry, Uzumaki-san, I must have spaced out for a bit. What did you say? I didn't say anything. I just like looking at the cute faces you make when you're thinking hard about something, the blonde answered flippantly with a larger smile that made her stomach do more flips. Stop teasing me, she quietly whined as she rubbed her face as it was practically burning to the touch. Don't lie and say I'm cute. Naruto frowned for a split second before his smile returned. I was not lying, but if you truly don't like it, then I will stop if that is what you wish. Kami, why is he doing this to me? Kurosuchi could only groan in desperation and defeat, her dark eyes looking at the blonde with a small frown. She loved his compliments and teasing, even if she wanted him to think otherwise, but now she was stuck. She sticks with her refusal and he stops teasing her, or she cracks and admits that he is breaking her down little by little with every teasing grin and innocent compliment. I'm not telling you what to do, it's not like I'm your wife or mother or anything, she finally muttered, hoping the idiot would accept her statement. It seems Kami had other plans. But you did propose to me when we first met, so that does make you my fiancé, Naruto grinned before turning around to walk towards their objective for the day. And what kind of husband-to-be would I be if I did not compliment my woman? Why must you do this? Naruto turned to look at the kunoichi and raised an eyebrow at her outburst, but before he could get a question in she had stomped up to him and grabbed him by the collar. She is surprisingly strong and sturdy, something that went through his mind when she had actually slightly raised him off the ground to bring his face to hers until their noses were touching, his feet only barely scraping the ground by the toes. He was always a bit on the short side in comparison to others his age, but Hiruzen always chuckled and told him he was going to hit a later growth spurt. She breathed deeply and quickly as she looked into his eyes. Keikar-Mizuru-chan, I'm sorry if I upset you. Shut up. Now. She bit out each word and he flinched and nodded his head without meeting her eyes. All of your teasing, your innocent compliments, and the way you look as we work together. It drives me mad. What do you have to say? Why are you so cute? Naruto flinched and it took him a few moments before his brain processed what his ears heard, and his eyes widened before looking up at the foreign kunoichi in surprise. Her dark eyes were narrowed, but he could see and feel the emotion burning underneath. Love. A burning desire. For him. I do not understand, Keikar-Mizuru-chan. Kurosuchi growled in the back of her throat and a look of frustration crossed her face before she yanked him up, and with a yelp the blonde had his lips against hers and she held him close to her body. Her fists left his collar and traveled to his neck that gently grasped his neck with the slightest bit of pressure, but that did not stop her fierce kiss as she leaned forward to follow him when he was let down to fully stand on his own. He gasped suddenly when she used a fingernail to lightly scratch his sensitive cheek and she capitalized that moment to slip her tongue into his. He never had a kiss before, let alone something this intense, and his inexperience caused a bit of drool to travel down the side of his mouth before she pulled away slightly to take deep breaths. I hate how much you wormed your way into my heart, Uzumaki-san. Naruto-kun, Kurosuchi breathed in his scent, nuzzling her face against his as she gently traced a fingernail across his whispered face. Forbidden love, almost as if it was written by your village's perverted sannin, but you make me feel normal. I feel like a genuine woman with you, and it hurts that it comes from someone in a rival village. Naruto gasped and moaned when he felt her hand squeeze just a tad bit more on his neck and she hovered her other hand against his body with faster breaths. You are mine, and while you made it clear you will take multiple partners for the rebirth of your clan, I just ask that you let me know whenever you decide to take another love or wife. Understood? A gentle squeeze around his neck was all it took to make Naruto nod his head. You understood, Keikar-Mizuru-chan. She smiled deviously before letting go of the young boy, a coy expression making Naruto's own stomach do a couple of somersaults. Then let us continue on our date, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded his head and followed the confident girl to their date location, not knowing there was a proud and amused individual watching and hearing the entire situation. Oh, sensei, you would be proud of the Casanova your son is today. And the granddaughter of your biggest rival among the Hokage. This will certainly spell disaster later. And if only I could make a deal with God, I'd make him swap our places, Naruto quietly sang to himself as he followed the Iwa Kunoichi towards one of the many buildings operated by Gato's thugs. You know, the whole point of scouting is to not be found. I know, Naruto answered and continued humming to the song in his head. That means you should stop singing. We use flashy and bright jutsu to kill our enemies. I think my light humming is the least of our worries to be spotted, Naruto shrugged and glanced at the raven-haired girl. Unless you want to do something to make me stop. Kurosuchi gave a pointed stare at the blonde, knowing the intention of his statement by the smirk on his lips and the mischievous gleam in his eyes. I will not play into your hand, Naruto, but if you keep teasing and being a nuisance I will make sure you get your punishment later. Ooh, Naruto mocked with an even bigger grin. I'm so scared, Kamizuru-chan ga. Naruto yelped as he rubbed his rear and winced at the pain that would surely cause trouble sitting. He looked at Kurosuchi and saw her wearing a smirk of her own, and her eyes glinted dangerously in the sun as she stared at him. Her hand, the one that must have smacked his rear, was held behind her back and not bothering to hide the smirk that she gave him. Behave or I will do that again, Kurosuchi threatened before continuing her walk. Naruto winced and nodded his head, all the while blushing in embarrassment due to the girl's own smirk and Kurama's laughter inside his head. What have I gotten myself into? With that question, he noticed Kurosuchi slow to a stop and he followed where she was looking and was horrified at what he saw. A small outlying grove with a small cabin that must have been a small farm at one point is now burning with the crop destroyed. However, it is the mutilated bodies of an old man and woman outside the broken front door that upset Naruto's stomach. Despite his unease, he slowly approached the building with careful steps as he looked around for anything else. He saw nothing up until he reached the bodies and he just gazed at them with a blank expression, but he could feel his eyes tearing up at the sight. Looking up, he moved around the corpses and into the house where he found it in complete disaster. Overturned furniture and shelving, broken picture frames, and shattered glass over the floor, it looked to have been looted for anything valuable not nailed to the ground. A blood trail led further into the house and he followed it, not hearing or noticing Kurosuchi slowly following from behind. She had a pained expression on her face as she took in what happened, but her attention followed her blonde companion in worry about how he may react. He reached a bedroom that seemed to be a kid, an adult's room if the small and large beds were anything to guess, but what grabbed hold of his attention is what is at the end of the blood trail. A man in his mid-20s, bleeding heavily with multiple slash and stab wounds, but still barely breathing despite the wounds. His eyes slowly tried focusing on his as he approached and a few gasps came out with his breathing. Naruto crouched next to the man and looked over the wounds with a small grimace. He won't survive even if his wounds were treated. Who are you? The man gasped out with shudders. Shinobi of Konohagakure, hired by Tazuna. Who did this? So Tazuna wasn't just talking out his ass, the man gave a weak and shuddering laugh. Gato's men came. We wouldn't sell the farm. Killed my parents, left me for dead. They stole my wife and daughter. Please, Naruto nodded his head at the small pleading word, putting his hand on the man's shoulder. I promise. Where did they take them? Compound south of here. Thank you, Shinobi-sama. Naruto Uzumaki will be fine, Naruto said softly and the man smiled. His breathing soon stopped, and Naruto stayed there for a few moments, just staring at the man's small smile. The man believed that Naruto would save the last of his family, and died with a relieved conscience. He picked the man's body up and brought him outside, passing Kurosuchi with just a small hurting glance. Setting him down next to his parents, he called out, Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 clones popped into existence and looked over the bodies with the same blank expression. The original looked into the sky as he spoke. Bury them properly, headstone and all. Understood. Naruto let his clones get to work before turning to Kurosuchi, but what shocked the girl was that instead of the beautiful blue eyes she grew used to, now only scarlet red eyes like that of a demon looked at her. Despite the rage she can see bubbling beneath the eyes, she knew that it was still her Naruto that was there in front of her. Naruto, they're all going to die. She understood the sentiment and nodded her head. Agreed. With the agreement, Naruto launched himself in the direction of the compound with Kurosuchi following a bit behind. They knew the exact compound the dying man had directed them to. It was the barracks for Gato's out-of-town operations inside Wave, and it is also one of the places on Naruto's list to destroy. Naruto stopped on a branch as soon as he reached the tree line at the edge of a clearing. He looked over the area, finding various laughing thugs outside a rundown building with broken windows and defaced walls. There seemed to be a few fighting rings where some chickens and dogs and even various wild animals were pitted against each other. What sickened Naruto, though, is the abused condition the women are in, with bruises and torn clothing being the shared description between them. "Shut that kid up!" Naruto's eyes snapped to the man who was walking outside the building, roughly shaking his head. "It must be the kid that was kidnapped from the farm." "There are a lot of bandits here," Kurosuchi mused silently as she scanned the area. A little over 20 men outside, and more inside. Even if they're bandits, their numbers will overwhelm us in a frontal assault. Naruto scowled before unzipping his jacket, tossing it to the ground below while making sure he knew where it was when he was finished here. "One thing you need to know about me, Kurosuchi-chan, is that I am never overwhelmed by numbers." Without a second glance, Naruto dropped below while creating multiple shadow clones, before using the headhunter jutsu to submerge into the ground. Kakashi felt the spike in chakra. A faint feeling so familiar to one of the most traumatic experiences in his life caused his muscles to lock up and a shudder racked his body like a full-speeding train. The hatred and utter loathing that was felt within the calming depth he associated with his student had him immediately concerned, and it took all of his willpower to get to his feet. Sasuke and Sakura looked at their sensei questioningly, confused by him getting to his feet and the look on his face. "What's wrong, Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura asked with a tilt of her head, taking the time away from her earth chakra manipulation training. "Go inside and watch after Tazuna and his family until I get back," Kakashi ordered his students without looking at them. "Do not leave and do not follow me, am I understood?" Hearing the seriousness in Kakashi's voice, Sakura and Sasuke nodded their heads, although the Uchiha was a little more hesitant. "What about Naruto?" Sasuke asked while getting to his feet. "He's still out there. I'll return with him, now do as I said." Kakashi took off into the trees without another word. Kakashi was thanking the heavens that Wave isn't as large as the ruined island of Uzumaki, as it would have been even more likely for his independent blonde student to have wandered off further than he is now. As it is, his student was only a few minutes away at his top speed, and his heart pounded as he felt that malevolent chakra seemed to grow into a blazing inferno. Landing at a clearing with his body in prime position to react to anything, he was surprised to see what can only be described as a massacre. Dead bodies were laid around with no sense of care, and the damage done only made the sight more gruesome. As he walked forward, noting the small rivers of blood that run along the dirt like a murky swamp, he came to the rundown building where he could hear voices inside. Looking inside, he not only found even more dead bodies, but cowering half-clothed women of various ages. They didn't even acknowledge his presence as they were too struck by the sight of one of the individuals in the room. It was Naruto, who is on top of a grown man beating his face in without stopping. "Naruto-kun, please stop." Kakashi looked to see who spoke, and he found a kunoichi with an Iwagakure uniform hugging his student from behind with a quivering voice. It slowed Naruto's movement to a stop, but judging by the blood and bone it was useless to think the man was alive. "I was too late." Hearing the broken voice of his student, Kakashi decided to slowly enter the room and approach the blonde. He was shaking with clenched fists, gripping his head even as the unknown kunoichi whispered words into his ear. He sobbed finally, and that one noise was enough to break a dam. "Ah!" His scream is full of pain and anger, arching his body as if he was ready to go to the heavens, only breaking Kakashi's heart even more as he was sobbing and sniffling through it all. "I was too late to save them. I failed in my promise. I failed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Forgive me, please. I'm sorry." Kakashi couldn't take it anymore, and he used a reality genjutsu that would be able to put everyone in the room to sleep. "I'm sorry, Naruto." Naruto shot up with a wide gaze, looking around the room he was in with lightning-fast analysis, before relaxing when he realized that it was his shared room with Sasuke and Kakashi. He doesn't know how long he had been asleep, but it was bright out, so it is either only an hour or it is an entire day. It was weird for him to be asleep with no ability to contact Kurama or to influence his dreams as he usually could. The door opened and Kakashi walked in, his lone eye finding Naruto's. There seemed to be a big weight released from his posture, and he moved inside and sat down near the blonde Jinchuriki. It was silent as neither looked at the other, but thankfully it was Kakashi that broke the silence. "Do you want to talk about it?" Naruto glanced to see Kakashi now looking at him with a soft and understanding gaze. He just shrugged, leaning his head back against the wall. I'm over it now. There's nothing I can change anymore. That may be true, but it is still good to talk about these things. What would you like me to say? I wish I could have been there faster, that I was stronger, that I knew some dark jutsu that can reverse the innocent deaths that I could not prevent. Naruto scoffed and looked at his sensei without moving his head from the wall. I'm not insane or gullible. I understand that this is our world, that no matter how strong I can be it would not matter as I cannot save everyone. I'm not the Rikudo Sennin. I'm not a godlike being. Kakashi nodded his head and leaned his head back with closed eyes, feeling his duty as sensei to get his student to open up about the experience. Explain the train of events to me. Whose promise did you fail? Naruto grimaced, but knew that Kakashi won't let him go until he was satisfied, so with a sigh he decided to answer the man. My partner. He stopped immediately as he realized that Kurosuchi was with him when his sensei found them. The kunoichi is fine, she's resting in Sakura's room, Kakashi informed him. Naruto sighed in relief, with a grateful nod. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei. As I was saying, my partner and I were going to scout out a food warehouse and possibly steal it all to give to the starving villagers, after interrogating any mercenaries we captured. However, we came across a small outlying farm and we found it burning with 3 dead bodies, an older couple, and the lone survivor, a husband and father. Naruto gave a shaky sigh as he ran a hand through his hair, looking down at the floorboard. His wife and daughter were taken by the thugs, and he died after he asked for me to save them and I accepted. When we arrived, I thought that we had enough time to save them. Kakashi noticed the pause and looked at his student to see him squeezing his eyes shut and clenching his fists against his pants. What did you see? They butchered the little girl, Naruto growled, and a few tears fell down his cheeks before he wiped his face angrily. The woman was beaten so badly as they raped her that she couldn't recognize the world around her. She was broken, sensei, and no amount of medical jutsu would fix her. What do you do for her then? Naruto slammed his fist into the wall, creating a hole to reveal the outside from his strength. I lost it, Kakashi. I've been learning how to control Kyuubi's power, to manage my rage and hatred so I don't lose myself to the power. But seeing that little girl and her mother like that, I couldn't hold myself back. I butchered them like animals. Kakashi nodded his head so far. His student is working through the emotions, and it meant living through his actions posthumously no matter how tragic it was. Minato was there for him when he was in Naruto's situation, and he will return the kindness in turn. What did you do? I didn't even let them die quickly, Naruto said without hesitation, his blue eyes now orange as he seemed to grin at the memories of what he did. It quickly turned to a scowl as he remembered why he did it. No death was merciful, sensei. I made sure that each bastard lived through what I did. I cut off their dicks, I cut them open like lab rats, and pulled out their entrails. I made a guy eat another man's heart, sensei. The last man I wanted to finish especially painfully, Naruto spoke slowly and deeply as if he was living the moment again. I used my kunai to pin him to the floor by his palms before straddling him and then snapped every single finger. I made sure that everything he felt is real and so much more than anything he could have done to that woman. I enjoyed his screams and his pleas for me to have mercy on him. I enjoyed it as he cried and begged for any of the women he raped and assaulted to help him, and I especially enjoyed it as I beat his head in. Naruto turned quiet as he leaned his head back against the wall and his orange eyes looked at the ceiling. I didn't stop even when he was no longer begging for mercy. I sure as hell didn't stop when he was no longer breathing. I kept going. Every punch got easier. Every punch just made this noise as the mush that was his head couldn't even be recognized as human anymore. I heard Kurosuchi-chan towards the end, but it didn't register until she was crying and holding me. Naruto breathed slowly and closed his eyes as a few more tears fell down his cheeks. I pride myself on upholding my promises, sensei. If I am to be anything, I want people to know me as someone who keeps to his word. Without that I am nothing as a shinobi or a person. He met Kakashi's eyes and he seemed to be begging for assurance from the older man. I am a man of my word, and I couldn't do that for a dying man, sensei. I had failed my first promise and it was for someone who deserved it the most. He deserved to go through heaven knowing he trusted the right person. I couldn't fulfill that. Kakashi was silent as he watched his student cry over something others would find an inconsequential mistake. For most shinobi, failing a promise, especially a promise to a dead or dying person, is merely a minor inconvenience, but it wasn't something they lost themselves to. But for Naruto, his word meant everything because he had grown up with everyone doubting him and his potential until he one day let loose that he is the Yondame's son. I can understand how you feel, Naruto, he started quietly but loud enough for him to hear. I can't understand exactly what you went through or how you feel, but I know your type of pain and regret. I've made many of those in my life. To my comrades and to those I was to protect. But you have to understand that this is only the first of many mistakes and it sure won't be the last. What you can do is learn from this, as everyone else does. You know this is how our world is, that we are at the front of seeing how truly cruel our world can be. What any of us can do is better prepare for the future. Naruto nodded his head as he stared at the floor, lost in his own thoughts. Kakashi sighed but knew his student needed some time to think, so he got up and headed to leave. He stopped at the door, however, and turned to the blonde. Oh, also, I'm not going to tell you who you make friends with or who you fall in love with, but I can only caution certain villages or individuals who would kill you due to your father's deeds in the Third Shinobi War. Naruto glanced up at his teacher in confusion, but the man was already closing the door. He didn't understand why his sensei was getting at him with his statement, but he wanted to see Kurosuchi and apologize for her seeing him like that. I hope she isn't afraid of me now. Naruto knocked on the door before entering, finding Kurosuchi laying on a cot that must have been Sakura's before they arrived with Kakashi. She was still asleep, it seemed, so he slowly walked over and sat down beside her. He slowly stroked her short black hair and focused on her peaceful face now instead of her cries from yesterday. I'm sorry you had to see me like that, Kamizuru-chan, Naruto said to himself since she was still asleep. There's nothing to be sorry for. Kurosuchi opened her eyes and looked up at Naruto with a sad smile. She grabbed his hand that stopped stroking her head as he seemed too surprised to do anything, and she brought his hand to her lips and gave a kiss to his knuckles. I understand that you were upset, and I'm not afraid of you for it. I'm sorry that you had to experience something as horrible as that. I would have been better prepared if I knew. I thought you already had experienced some things due to how you acted on our patrols, and I'm sorry for not being able to help you. Naruto laid down and he rested his head in her embrace, wrapping his arms around her and holding her close as she stroked her fingers through his hair. They were quiet as they just held each other, but Naruto could feel a slight tension in her body as if she were prepared for anyone to attack her. You can trust my team, Kuro-chan. My sensei is tolerant of you resting here, but I'm sure he's keeping a watch since you are a kunoichi of an unallied nation. Kurosuchi scoffed lightly to herself, but she held Naruto closer as if she would be forced away at any moment. As if I would leave you after that. Naruto chuckled into her neck and gave her a kiss before looking into her eyes. I appreciate it, Kuro-chan. Kurosuchi hummed with a small smile before she slowly began to frown and her eyes unfocused from his own. He tilted his head in confusion before sitting up in concern and was about to ask if she was okay when she spoke. Who are your parents, Naruto-kun? Naruto paused as he looked back at her and he hesitated to tell her, fearing what she will do when she learns what his heritage is. He's not an idiot, he knows that the current Tsukikage is of the Kamizuru clan and that he had a particular dislike for his father's singular brutal act in the Third Shinobi War. He's also not justifying Minato's actions, as it was an atrocious massacre of life whether they are an enemy or not, but it was also a very smart move to save the life of those he fought with. It also is that singular brutal act that made Iwagakure pull out of the war, allowing Konoha to focus on their lines against Kumogakure. A brutal act that would later save the lives of many allies. Naruto sighed and slumped his shoulders, giving Kurosuchi time to sit up on her knees. Uzumaki is my mother's last name, my mother being Kushina Uzumaki, also known as the Red Blade of the Swirling Leaves. She is an S-rank kunoichi who was feared during the Third Shinobi War for her assassination skills with her katana that gave her the alias. Naruto paused and looked up at Kurosuchi and he felt his eyes tear up in anxiety and fear of what is to happen next. My father is Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash and the fourth Hokage. The man who is made famous for his use of a teleporting technique, a man who caused the turning point in the Third Shinobi War at Canopy Bridge, and the one man most hated by Iwagakure. Naruto clenched his eyes shut and lowered his head, crushed at looking at the horrified look on Kurosuchi's face, and forced his tears to not fall. I also know that you are the granddaughter of the Tsukikage, a man who called for the death of anyone related to my father, but I had hoped that we could connect without the influence of our family and villages. I understand if you do not agree. Naruto did not move, he barely breathed, as he waited for the kunoichi to do something, anything, that would let him know where she stood. It was quiet, extremely so that he almost thought he was alone now, but that ended when he heard the slightest movement. A shuffle closer, and he could feel her moving closer to him, and his instincts were telling him to protect himself, to move away, but he just stayed there. Arms encircled him, her head pressed into his shoulder, and her body shook as if she was crying. He opened his eyes, and he could only see her black hair as she held him close. "Thank you for telling me," she whispered quietly, and she clutched tighter around him. "My feelings do not change. I fell in love with who you are. I didn't take the time to share things about myself just to get you close to benefit my village or my family. I love you, Naruto, whether you are Uzumaki or Namikaze." Naruto held her close, and now tears fell from the relief that he felt. "Thank you, Kiro-chan, I love you too. I know it'll be hard, but no matter what I will take care of you and protect you. And you never go back on your promise." Kurosuchi chuckled as she remembered how much the blonde went on about his ninja way. "I'll hold you to that promise, Naruto-kun." As the two held each other, Kakashi's clone was leaning against the door while trying to read his book, a small smile on his face as he overheard everything inside. He let his hand limply lay against his chest, no longer trying to act like he was reading, and he exhaled a deep breath that he wasn't sure he was holding. "Your boy sure is something, sensei. I can feel that he is going to make a lot of good changes in the near future." With that, the clone silently exploded in a puff of smoke to allow the original the knowledge of what happened there. "Where are you off to, Naruto?" Kakashi asked from the chair next to the front door. Naruto smiled at the clone of his sensei and shrugged. "Just going on a walk. Meditate some more most likely. I'll be back for dinner, hopefully." Kakashi nodded his head and waved his hand for the boy to get going. Ma, then don't let me keep you too long. Just flare your chakra if you ever need assistance. Be careful, though, it is close to the time." "That's standard procedure, sensei," Naruto grinned with a wave of his hand. "CYA, sensei." Naruto would usually be going out on patrol with Kurosuchi, but 2 days ago, she got a messenger hawk that told her that her target was found working in Sunagakure and that she was to head back to her village for debriefing. She left, but not without saying goodbye, and it was a surprise to his teammates when she strolled up to the house and asked for him. It's not every day that a rival village's kunoichi comes asking for another. Their reaction was even funnier when they saw the two of them kiss and embrace before she left, promising to write to him. Kakashi had stood with a wide grin and a leer in his eye that made Naruto shiver at the perverted thoughts going on in that man's head. However, it was explained that Kurosuchi wasn't a threat to them and their mission, so there was no reason to capture or kill her. Instead, Naruto has been training his self-control of Kyuubi's chakra in and trying to balance the extreme power. More than once he almost dried out the lake and burned down the nearby forest. It was even funnier when Sakura came running back to the house trying to tell Kakashi that there was some kind of battle or disaster where he was training. When they all went to see what she was talking about, Kakashi's pointed stare was hilarious to the blonde. It only made his teammates warier when he was asked if he was responsible, and he answered honestly. Sasuke looks at him with even more envy and a small amount of respect, while Sakura looked at him with caution and fear as if he was some kind of dangerous animal. "With the transformation, you are technically an animal." Naruto rolled his eyes. "You said I looked normal." "For a Jinchuuriki, yes, you were as normal as they come." Naruto shook his head at the Biju's cackle and grumbled about mean old beasts and the reinforcement of a certain nickname. Naruto stopped in the clearing, pulled from his musings when he caught the scent of something new in his area. It's feminine, a flowery herbal smell that is mixed with a sweet underlying scent of a human female. Considering Sakura did not smell of flowers and herbs, and that she will no longer come around this area ever since she found it last time, and Kurosuchi smelled of earth and ash and had left for Iwagakure, he was on guard immediately. He crept forward toward the smell, keeping his footsteps and movement as quiet as possible, and as he got closer he could hear Flora being pulled. As he reached a clearing, he found a young woman with long black hair hunched over a patch and pulling some of them into a basket. She wore a pink and white kimono, her hair let down straight like a midnight waterfall, and as he got closer he noticed black painted nails. "Wait." Holding up the rabbit hand seal, he called out, "Uzumaki marked Fuinjutsu, freeze." Immediately, the woman froze in place and there was a startling noise coming from her. The blonde couldn't hold it, he began laughing out loud at the absurdity of this encounter. "Oh my Kami, no way the chances of this happening had actually come. Reveal yourself." At the familiar voice, Naruto walked around while avoiding the herb patch and crouched in front of the unmasked fake hunter Nin. A beautiful face befitting the lithe but strong figure of the female kunoichi, hazel eyes staring back in open surprise. "Hello again, Hunter-chan." The girl groaned and closed her eyes to not look at him. I thought I would be able to avoid you. I hate my luck. Naruto chuckled and sat down. Really? 'Cause I love my luck. What brings you here, Hunter-chan? She took a deep breath before exhaling roughly. You know why I'm here. I am gathering medicine for my master. Ah, Zabuza-san. How is he recovering? Well, I hope, Naruto spoke honestly, shocking the girl. Just because we fought doesn't make us eternal enemies or anything like that. We're just hired by two different opposing people, so there are no hard feelings about this. Unless he rapes people like others under Gato's employ, then we do have a problem. The girl is surprised by the venom in the boy's tone, but she felt as she doesn't know how to describe it, but her heart felt light that the blonde genin cared for such despicable acts. Zabuza-sama would never fall so low as to do something as heinous as that. We are paid to kill, yes, but we would never do that. Naruto smiled a toothy grin that made the raven blush. Good. I'm getting tired of expecting the worst of others. The girl then felt control of her body return, and the black swirl disappeared again from her skin after retracting from its constriction. She leaned back and stared at the blonde boy as he just looked down at the ground with a faraway look. You've seen the warehouses. It wasn't a question, and Naruto gave no indication other than an eye twitch that he heard her, but he nodded after a second of hesitation. I've raided every single known location owned by Gato. Most are just warehouses of things he's taken, food, and possessions. The others are disgusting dens of horrible activities. She silently nodded, having heard Zabuza laughing when Gato had complained about losing his warehouses to a singular person. She did not feel sorry. If anything, she and her master were glad they were taken out and dismantled. I'm glad you did. It made working for the man unbearable knowing what he allowed to happen, and until we got paid there was nothing we could do. No offense, but he won't be paying you, Naruto said. Getting a questioning look, he continued, what I mean is that he doesn't have a good record of paying people that he owes, and even if he did, the moment I find him, he's a dead man. Haku stared into his determined eyes and tilted her head in curiosity. Deciding to test the boy for her own interest, she asked, what do you get strong for, Naruto? Is it for yourself? Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly in confusion. I guess in part one do it for myself. I do it out of my own desire to protect myself and those I love. Despite Oji-chan not telling me of my parents, I can understand that people make stupid decisions out of fear for the safety of those they love, so if anything I appreciate that he would lie to the entire village to protect me no matter how horribly wrong it went. I haven't fully forgiven him yet, but he is doing his best to make it up to me. I am also getting strong to be respected and as a good role model. Oji-chan has a grandson, and even though we didn't get along at first, I want him to look up to me in a good light, as someone to follow and to strive to become. Naruto noticed the small smile on Haku's face, so he decided to tell her more of his desires. Don't think that I am some saint or some shit like that. I am a shinobi and a killer, and for that, I am not perfect. I desire revenge against those who desire for my clan to be snuffed out of history like the Senju and Ucha. I desire to rebuild my clan, even if it means over the bodies of those who threaten my future, even if those people are surviving clan members. I will do whatever it takes to make sure my clan and home come back to prosperity. Haku now looked with a small frown at what she has heard, but she understood the sentiment. Long ago, when she was first trained by Zabuza and she found the love of a father, she desires to protect him with her life, and she still does. She will protect the man who trained her and raised her, and it warmed her heart because he has also said much the same over the years. So despite the aggressive nature of the younger's desires, she found herself approving it. I can't say I completely agree with your sentiments, but I agree with your desire to protect your loved ones. I believe that one can only be truly strong when they have someone to protect, like you with your Oji-chan, and Zabuza is that one for me. I love him like the father I wish I was born from, and despite how he seems, he cares a lot for me and his former village. Naruto now was interested as well. I thought he had tried to murder his former Mizukage? Haku nodded her head. He did, but the reason he tried to was because of the new doctrines that were put into place. The Mizukage slowly saw the Kekkei Genkai clans within Kirigakure as a danger to the nation, so he started what would become the Blood Purge. Essentially, anyone who has any type of Kekkei Genkai was killed or imprisoned, but after the Second Shinobi World War, Keri had a large population of Kekkei Genkai. As such, this caused a civil war, and while Zabuza-sama was one of the Jonin swordsmen who were hunting Kekkei Genkai, he met a woman that changed his mind. Then he found me. So he wanted a safe future for us, and he tried to kill our Mizukage. It didn't work, she told him, sarcasm in her voice. Clearly it didn't, because Kirigakyu is still in a civil war and we are now rogue ninjas finding work to supply the Kekkei Genkai rebels. That's why we are working for someone like Gato currently. He is offering as much money as it dwarfs our last 5 jobs put together, which means we will bring back enough money to fund the rebels' operations for nearly half a year. So we feel pressured into this, as you are by your village to stop us. Naruto was quiet as she finished speaking, fidgeting with her fingers without looking at him. I understand, I really do. My clan and their village were destroyed out of fear of the hidden villages during the Second Shinobi War. So I do understand, even if it's secondhand, but I guess if Zabuza was willing to actually talk out a deal, there could be something beneficial for all of us. Haku cocked her head to the side and looked up at him, her eyes knitted together. What I mean to say is that I am rebuilding my home island, an archipelago a few dozen or so miles off the coast of Fire Country. The only people currently there are a few retainer families loyal to my clan, and a few refugees who have moved there with the retainers. I'm saying that if Zabuza could ask the rebels if they want a place where their civilians and injured can rest until you can win the civil war in Kiri, or after, if an agreement for permanent friendship is arranged, then I would be willing. What do you get out of this? Haku asked cautiously. I do this out of kindness mostly, but there is one thing I do want in exchange, Naruto admitted lightly with a shrug of his shoulders. I just ask that the civilians help with what my retainers need, within reason of course, and in return, you will have a place to live and food to eat. The island is already self-sustaining, with cattle and crop farms already set up from the beginning, so some work will be needed in return. I am not asking for a slave force, as I have no need for that, but a no is always on the table if you are moved there then find it not to your liking. How do you know we won't try to take over your island for ourselves? Haku asked the brutal question on why he would trust them so willingly. What she got was a chuckling laughter from the blonde and a toothy grin that sent goosebumps up and down her arms. I have pity for anyone who would try to attack my island again. The elders won't take kindly to a second invasion attempted on their summoners. Haku's eyes snapped to the tattoo she noticed early on in their conversation. A crest of a dragon's head with bull horns under a swirl with 10 lines like a sun. I don't like the sound of that. Kakashi-sensei, where is Naruto? The masked man looked up at his lone female student and tilted his head in thought of her question before waving his hand dismissively, causing both of his students awake to clench their jaws in frustration. It seems Naruto-kun had overexerted himself last night and requires more rest. Sadly, even when I tried to politely wake him up, he was unresponsive and I believe it best that he rests a bit more today. Sasuke grunted and started walking ahead of his sensei and teammate. Kakashi smiled at the walking Avenger, but inside he sighed and trying not to rub his temples in irritation. Ever since Naruto slowly revealed how dangerous he actually was compared to his teammates, which only escalated with them witnessing a fraction of the power the Kyuubi can emit while Naruto is in control, the lone loyal Uchiha shinobi has been becoming drastically more broody and nearly uncontrollable. The boy hated that what he was taught by his father and civilians thereafter has been shattered beyond any type of repair and it is making him more and more aggravated. The boy had been taught from a young age that his clan had been as powerful as the Senju clan and had founded Konohagakure. With them being the sole surviving clan since the Senju have nearly died out with the exception of Tsunade, he thought that he was royalty in terms of ninja clans and social standing. However, he did not take Naruto's claim of being from an extremely old and powerful clan seriously, and he is now witnessing the true reality of the world. Even with the blonde surviving off of minimal knowledge of his clan and their capabilities, he is more powerful than most genin or chunin even if he graduated at 15 like the rest of them. Come, Sakura, Kakashi sighed and waved to Tsunami as she watched them leave. However, as he walked, he gained a feeling in his stomach that he had when things were going to go terribly wrong. This feeling was a common occurrence in the Anbu, so he almost naturally fell into position to scout out the area once more, but the moment he realized that he was no longer in the Special Operations Unit, he had to stop at the end of the bridge. He realized too late that the area is covered in moderately dense fog, but he can see some bodies lying on the stone surface. There was no blood that he could see, but each body had a senbon in their necks, the same style as the fake Hunter-nin. Kami, why did I choose today of all days to let you rest? Kakashi grumbled to himself at the thought of his blonde student as he watched as 2 figures slowly revealed themselves in the fog. It is good to see you again, Hatake, Zabuza greeted the man, but his eyes scanned around him. Where is the blonde kid? Kakashi tilted his head in mock confusion. I don't know what you mean. What blonde? Zabuza laughed deeply and held his stomach. You know who I am talking about, Kakashi. My apprentice says they saw him in the forest and that he is doing well. So I know he is alive, all I want to know is where he is. He does not strike me as one who would miss a fight. Naruto, Kakashi groaned as he glanced at the masked apprentice. Of course, the blonde would meet and not capture the young girl, and he knew that the blonde knew who she would be because he is not that stupid. I sent him back to Konoha for reinforcements. Zabuza slapped his face in frustration. I can see I won't get a straight answer from you, so that means that my apprentice will just have to amuse themselves with your other students. Before anything else could happen, there was a bright flash that blinded the entire bridge even though the origin of the light was nowhere near their location. It took a moment before it died down, but almost immediately the ground had rumbled and a mile away there was an explosion. That's in the direction of Gato's compound, Haku said aloud to her master. Indeed it is, I wonder what could have caused that. Zabuza cupped his chin in thought but shrugged and grasped his sword handle over his right shoulder. We will worry about that later, let's focus on making sure we get paid. Hopefully, that blonde shows up before we finish. Haku nodded, but something deep down told her that he will be there soon. Naruto opened his eyes as he suddenly felt his teammates were no longer nearby. He was in his mind trying to heal some internal wounds he had sustained from training in Kyuubi's second tail form. These wounds are minor, mostly bruising, but left untreated can permanently damage him if he enters the second tail again. He did not want to be a cripple due to carelessness, so he slept in to do a bit of healing. Sitting up, the blonde felt a few pops under his shoulder blades and his back as he stretched before he got to his feet and rolled up his temporary bed. As he slipped on his sandals to leave through the window, he heard a crash downstairs and a scream from Tsunami. He felt for any chakra, but he didn't feel anything except for civilians, so that ruled out Zabuza or Haku trying anything while his team was away. Opening the window, he crept on the roof to where the front is and silently dropped down. Two men, Ronin, stood in the doorway. One held Tsunami to her knees by her hair, a manic grin on his face as he watched his partner approach Inari with his katana out. Now that won't do. Naruto flashed forward, easily burying a kunai into the neck of the Ronin that held Tsunami, before he moved forward again and slammed his shoulder into the last. The man had his katana raised to end Inari's life, so he didn't trust killing the man in time, so he settled with separating them. They tumbled a bit through the living room, but Naruto recovered after landing against the couch while the man bashed his head into the small end table. Inari ran to his mom, who held him protectively while crying as the fear subsided, but the boy watched as the team shinobi rose to his feet with a small glance at them. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked before approaching the man that had yet to move. "We are now," Tsunami whimpered while holding her son tighter. "Thank you." "None are needed," Naruto answered before stabbing the man at the base of his skull where his spine met. "I do suggest finding somewhere else to stay until I handle Gato." Tsunami nodded her head and got up to lead her son away, but he refused to budge. Both she and Naruto looked at him to see him shaking and fighting back tears, but his face contorted into a pained expression. "I am sorry for doubting you. I'm sorry for being mean. Even after all of what I have said, you still saved me." Naruto smiled softly and approached the boy that is now wiping his face of the tears that now continuously fell. He wiped his hand of the blood before ruffling the child's hair with affection. "It's okay, Inari, I know what loss and pain can do to a person. I will still give my life for your and your village's safety. But right now, I need to go make sure Gato doesn't do this again." With that, Naruto left and jumped into the trees and began running for the last and most guarded compound in Wave. It is also the main hub for all of Gato's shady dealings in this area, and the blonde avoided it in favor of giving the man a headache by dismantling his various operations. But after this cowardly attack, the blonde has no hesitation about what he is about to do. As he neared the area, he dropped into a clearing he found while scouting the area 2 months ago, and when he sensed he was alone, he cut his finger and ran a trail through the tattoo on his arm. Uzumaki summoning contract, ancient beasts, Betelgeuse. With a flash of light and a new scorching temperature, the summoning smoke cleared to reveal the creature. With a bulky upper body and covered in thick, metallic-like scales with a bronze sheen, this creature is unlike anything else seen around the world. Its underside is lined with protruding scales that are orange and white from the superheated temperature they exuded. With a 15-foot wingspan, it is about 25 meters in size and towered over the blonde. "Millimeter, I have been summoned," Betelgeuse hummed deeply, looking down at his summoner with a fiery stare. "What do you need, Guardian?" "Destruction," the blonde answered, pointing in the direction of the compound that can be seen. "I want that place reduced to rubble with no survivors." Betelgeuse grinned and leaned towards his summoner, breathing a grey smoke as he did, before saying, "It will be done," and then took flight. The explosion that resulted and subsequent minor ones that nonetheless shook the ground is what Naruto's team, Zabuza and Haku, felt in their standoff, and it would be a few moments later when Naruto gained the prize he wanted. Naruto had entered the compound, killing any survivors that were being burned alive, as he made his way for the safe room his target would be hiding in. He scouted this area plenty of times, and Gato spared no expense on expensive safety features on his personal home. The feature unique to this estate is that the moment there is any type of breach, whether done by explosive or by chakra, the room in which the short mogul did his business would be sealed tighter than a shaman's vagina. However, Uzumaki Fuinjutsu was capable of such things. Reaching a steel door with no handle, he felt the surrounding wall to sense the same metal protecting the rest of the room's surface. Taking out a small pot of ink and a brush, the blonde went on with his meticulous work without looking away even as Betelgeuse approached from behind. If he had looked, it would have been amusing to see the large beast casually destroying the corridor as he approached. The blonde finished the seal before pressing his hand to the center and channeling some chakra into it. It flashed purple before, with a muffled explosion, the steel door that is covered in seals crumbles to the ground as if a dirt wall. The blonde brushed his hands together as he entered, finding the man alone and cowering behind his desk. It seems that he was alone when he was unexpectedly locked inside. "It's like opening a present," Naruto grinned as he slowly approached the side of the room so the short man could get a good look at Betelgeuse from the doorway. "You messed up when you sent your 2 Ronin after my client's family, Gato. If you hadn't, I would have watched you betraying Zabuza passively if only to turn the man to my side. You would have still died, but at least you would have lived longer, but we all choose our end and how we go, so I guess I can't fault you for trying to fight to the bitter end. Whatever you're being paid, I'll double it." The short man tried to put on a confident face as he glanced at Betelgeuse and then back at the blonde. "No, triple. Kill Zabuza and his apprentice and I will pay you to leave." Naruto sighed as he dropped the bottle of expensive liquor after looking at it, turning around without care that he just made a mess of the floor. His face went from a frown to a grin and he chuckled as he approached the man. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. Your death is not my revenge, anyway." The man cowered before the world went blank when the blonde demon was at arm's length from him. Both Kakashi and Zabuza gasped for air as they stood away from each other, each of them sporting wounds from their aggressive fight that left them both exhausted. Zabuza had already lost feeling in his left arm again from pushing himself too far in his fight, even though he hasn't fully recovered yet. Kakashi can no longer use his Sharingan eye as it has drained him of his chakra to the point of nearly passing out, and he is bleeding under his flak jacket from a nasty cut he got from Kubikiribacho. "This is the fight I was looking forward to in the beginning," Zabuza chuckled breathily as he hunched forward on his sword. "Only thing more concerning than either of our deaths is the fact that the explosions have stopped for a bit now." Zabuza huffed and leaned one arm on his knee to hold himself up, keeping his eye on the missing nin, but he had to admit he was concerned as well. In the beginning, he had no time to sense to see if Naruto was alright before engaging in the fight, and now he is too tired to even try such a thing no matter how concerned he is. He can only hope that his student is alright and will arrive soon to help them. Kakashi chuckled as he leaned his head forward, getting a confused glance from the man. "Don't mind me, just feeling horrible that I'm thinking about how much I could use my student's help right now." Zabuza chuckled before coughing violently. "Your student sure is something. And to think I had hope about your Ucha being just as good." Sure enough, both men looked to see Sasuke on his knees fighting to stay in the fight against Haku. He is outmatched in speed and experience, and he had been unable to make a single dent into any of the ice mirrors that prevented his escape. Haku had grown bored of him since the beginning, disappointed that the blonde was not there to fight, and had since only attacked the raven-haired teen when he tried to fight her. So long as he stayed down, she did not hurt him. But he was stubborn like the rest of his family. Except for his older sister and cousin Shisui. You guys couldn't wait an hour before tearing into each other. Everyone turned to see the blonde arrive down the path to the bridge, an amused smile on his lips which only grew into an open laugh when he saw Sasuke's predicament. "Aha! Since when did we get a porcupine?" Ignoring the indignant shout from the Ucha male, he looked at Zabuza before pulling out a bag from one of his seals and tossing it toward the man. The moment it landed, money poured from the opening and glistened on the wet stone ground. "There's the amount Gato promised you, and then some. The rest were given back to the village." The man stared at the coins and picked one up that landed near his feet and looked it over for any traps or any possibility it may be fake. It wasn't. He looked back at the blonde. "How did you get this?" Naruto grinned and brought his fingers to his lips before letting out a sharp whistle. Betelgeuse! A roar shouted before the heat could be felt by everyone, and shortly after a creature unseen by anyone landed near the blonde. Tied to his back is Gato, sweating and screaming despite the gag in his mouth. He is sweating profusely from the heat Betelgeuse produces, and to those who can barely see him it almost looks like a pig in human clothing squirming as if it is about to be put to the slaughter. Naruto patted Betelgeuse on one of the scales under his body as he untied Gato from the beast, pulling him forward and tossing him to the ground. I already told Haku what I planned to do, and I did it when this bastard sent 2 of his Ronin after Tazuna's family. He saw the anger for Gato in Tazuna's eyes get washed over with concern for his family, and he raised his hand to calm the man. They are safe, I killed them both before any true harm could come to them. Tsunami is scared, though, so I had her find somewhere to stay until everything is over. The man visibly relaxed and began thanking Naruto for everything. Don't worry about it, old man, Naruto flashed a grin before turning back to Zabuza and Haku. I don't know if Haku had shared what I said with you, but there was an offer on the table if you wish to hear me out. The man glanced when he saw the ice mirrors fall to the ground and saw her walking toward him. He sighed and nodded his head, all right. You have my attention, brat. Naruto grinned even more, his eyes glinting dangerously in the mist. Excellent. The preceding festival after the village was able to get their revenge, a brutal public beating not unlike what was done against Inari's stepfather, was a massive and rowdy one if Naruto had to say for himself. Everyone had come to some agreement that he was their hero for the extra deeds he did while protecting Tazuna, even taking the responsibility to kill the man so that none of them could be targeted for it. There was a lot of booze, dancing, music, and plenty of food. The younger people were even going to secluded areas to have sex. To shorten it, it was a madhouse. And Naruto enjoyed it as it brought smiles to the people's faces. It was during the celebrations that he was approached by a familiar figure. Naruto. Naruto turned and was greeted by the sight of a red-haired man with brown eyes, and 3 claw marks over his left eye that had not blinded him. He is tall, about 6 feet and 6 inches, and towered over many people as he made his way forward. He wears a black overcoat, a white shirt with half the buttons undone to expose a muscled chest, as well as pants that end at the knee. He carries a long katana with a blue scabbard on his right side, hanging in a red sash that is barely covered by the white shirt. This is his distant cousin, Shanks. A former pirate raiding other continents across the Kaizoku and Kanashi seas but is now captain of one of 2 Uzumaki ships. Not like a navy is needed for people capable of walking on water or with seals able to instantly transport individuals over long distances, but the valuable asset to devastate shore villages before approaching was quite an unignorable benefit. Shanks, what are you doing here? Naruto handed a bottle of alcohol to the man as he continued sipping his own cup. Not happy to see me, Shanks laughed as he accepted the bottle. You know it's not like that, Naruto chuckled with a shake of his head. I just wasn't expecting to hear from anyone until I got back to Konoha, or somewhere more private to talk. Shanks shrugged and leaned on the table as he drank from the bottle. I decided to stop by since I heard about how a blonde had freed a nation from a greedy bastard. Naruto laughed and shook his head, watching as Zabuza was slowly finding himself swarmed with drunk women who no longer feared him. He couldn't find Haku. It's good to see you, how is home? Prospering, Shanks answered. With that Phantom Hive boy setting up the factories for production, we've been easily making plenty of income to do what we need to do. A few people came looking to take advantage of us thinking we are just a small community, so we gave them a warm Yuzushio welcome. Naruto laughed at that. Up until now, Naruto had been having his home rebuilt quietly and slowly letting themselves be known, because if any of their enemies got a sniff of what they were doing it could spell disaster, and he wasn't going to risk that. But if production is already going well under the diligent eye of that feminine boy and his half-demon butler, they may end up revealing themselves earlier than planned. Maybe in the next year, but if more people come to them, it is likely that it will be earlier than that. Good to know we are making a profit already, Naruto said with a sip of his drink, already thinking of his next move. We may end up having some civilian and injured shinobi being brought to the island. Inform Grandpa Jinrei about it and tell him that I will let him know any other information as soon as I myself figure it out. All right, Shanks ruffled his cousin's head with a smile. Hope to see you again, I'll tell Luffy you said hi. Naruto thought about his cousin's adopted brother with a smile. That boy was always fun to be around, even if his crew took things a bit more seriously than him it was always refreshing to see them. Okay, Shanks, CYA. With that, he was alone again with his drink, although he did give a smile whenever the kids saw him and came to say hi and thank him. Who was that? Naruto turned his head to see Haku in a beautiful pink kimono with white lily patterns, her hands grasped nervously behind her as she refused to catch his eye. She is beautiful, he had to admit, and it took a bit to not blush, and even more effort when Kyuubi began whistling in approval. He gave a smile and motioned for the spot next to him before answering. That was a relative of mine, he was passing by and came to say hi. I didn't see you for a while, I thought you weren't here. Haku giggled softly before looking at Zabuza, who is still currently awkwardly navigating from one drunk woman to another in an effort to get away. I couldn't leave my father alone to fend for himself, but even I was getting overwhelmed near all of them. Naruto laughed and nodded his head as he looked back at the swordsman. Yeah, I can see he isn't very adept in navigating social gatherings. That, or he is easily flustered around a woman. More of the first one, with a bit of loving someone already, Haku hummed as she watched the blonde watch the festival. He is at ease as he watches everyone enjoy the celebration, gently rubbing a finger around the glass cup that is only half filled now, and his eyes are soft as he watches even kids run around with laughter. She didn't realize how long she was staring until he turned to look at her, and those soft eyes looked into hers, and she felt her breath hitch, a shock running up and down her spine. She fumbled with her fingers, looking away, before chastising herself in her head. I'm acting like a little girl with a crush. I'm 18 and he's 16. We are adults in every way of our profession, but why do I feel so much freer when he looks at me? Naruto placed his hand on hers, stopping her thoughts immediately, and she looked up to see the smile he was giving her. You're beautiful in that dress, by the way. Not just with your body, but the way it lights up your eyes and face, it's like looking at a goddess. But even then, it would be giving a goddess too much credit. Be a bump. She blushed as her heart beat faster and harder. Naruto yawned as he stretched his aching muscles, sitting up to let the comfortable blanket fall down to his lap, and blinked away the sleep to take in the room. With the alcohol filtered out of his system, he is slowly remembering the previous night from where his most detailed memory left off. It was easy, with Kyuubi and Uzumaki genes blending to get rid of his intoxication with only a minor headache. He spent last night talking and joking with Haku, watching after Zabuza as he tried to avoid the village women after him. His only solace came in the form of Tsunami, who took pity on the man and took him for a walk through the village. Haku had smiled softly, remarking that she trusted he was in safe hands, before their night continued on together. Naruto shared a bit more than he intended about his home and of his family and the retainer clans. He shared how every clan loyal to him is, in some way or another, related to him through various marriages, as his ancestors wanted to show trust and devotion to those who pledged themselves to the clan and islands. The closest retainer clan he is close to is the Kuchiki clan, with Grandpa Jinrei being a survivor of Uzumaki as well as a childhood friend of Naruto's grandfather. He shared his desire to bring his family back to prominence, but it was basically repeating what he had told her a few nights ago in the forest while she gathered herbs. Looking back, he is confused that she isn't disgusted or concerned that he is going to take multiple wives and that so far he already had 2 women that he cared for. It escalated dramatically from there, both of them going to his room in Tsunami's house where Naruto tensed when he felt something shift at his side and he slowly looked to take in the sleeping face of the girl he spent most of his night with. She had a small smile even in her sleep, and he was quiet as he got out of his bed and backed up to the wall. Oh boy, Naruto thought while biting his finger anxiously. Should I be happy or dread the outcome? Ah ha ha ha, Zabuza is going to kill you, Kyuubi guffawed deeply and loudly, irritating his blonde host. Helpful comments only please, Naruto growled as he rubbed his temples. Run, Kyuubi snickered. Naruto slapped his head and wondered if he was going to have to deal with Kyuubi's teasing any longer. The door opening to reveal his sensei and Zabuza was his answer, one looking amused while the other looked absolutely livid. You get one chance to guess who is which. So as I was saying, Kyuubi spoke to Naruto loudly despite there being a reigning silence in the room. Run, bitch, run! Naruto, Kakashi said his name full of amusement as Zabuza shook in anger. I'm guessing you had a good night? Naruto pointed to the missing nin accusingly. Zabuza fucked Tsunami, I will not be judged by him. You son of a dash. Finish that, I dare you. Naruto and Zabuza were now sharing a glaring match, but their yelling woke up Haku who is still tired from the previous night. And sore. Kami, was she sore? Ah, morning, Haku-san, Kakashi said cheerfully even if her awakening did not prevent the man and teen from glaring at each other. You can take that blanket to my room to get changed. I don't think Naruto-kun or Zabuza-san will be moving from their task anytime soon. Haku blushed a deep red, even her freckled chest turning red from how embarrassed she is, before nodding and hastily grabbing her clothes before leaving. Kakashi sighed and looked at the two men. All right, you two, that's enough. You're not a child, Zabuza, and Naruto, you aren't one much either. I'm 16, Naruto argued with a frown, crossing his arms with a slight pout. I'm not that bad that Haku being with me is the end of the world. Zabuza pinched the bridge of his nose and fought the instinct to wring the blonde's neck purple. Listen, kid, she's like a daughter to me. She showed no interest in boys, more in girls, but that's beside the point. I care for her, and I like you much more than others that she could have fallen in love with, but it is something I was not prepared for waking up this morning. Ah, Naruto nodded his head with bright eyes. I get it, if I want to have sex with Haku I just have to get you laid too, and then you won't care. Fuck, holding himself back, he's gonna strangle this kid. Come here, Zabuza shouted, lunging for the boy's neck. Naruto, Kakashi pinched his own nose before leaving the two men to sort themselves out. He tried his best, so he can't be blamed for whatever shape they calm down in. He will just make his student clean and fix any damages. It had taken the two a while, with quite a few shouts and destroyed property, before either of them calmed down enough to actually sit down with the rest of the household. Kakashi had Haku come sit with his team and Tazuna's family until her father and lover finished their dispute, but he took his chance to do some harmless teasing without pushing it too far. By the time the two came down, breakfast was finished being made and everyone was sitting at the dining room table. Are you two done? Kakashi asked without looking up from his book. Yes, both men grumbled, but they elbowed each other like kids until they sat down at the table. Haku hid a laugh from the two, but she was happy that Zabuza didn't kill the blonde. She likes him, so she would like to keep him breathing as long as possible. Of course, over the course of the breakfast, the topic of their departure came up from Tazuna, who is surprisingly very sober. Are you sure you have to leave tomorrow? You can't stay for a few more days? Kakashi shook his head with a small smile. We have to get back to Konoha to debrief the mission. It is also getting close to the exams. While the other two seemed a bit confused, Naruto was not, as he was hoping that they could participate in the exams. They're fresh out of the academy for the most part, so it was unlikely they would be approved, but if he pushed Hiruzen enough he might cave and make an exception. He also heard that this will be one of the first exams in nearly a decade where all large shinobi villages will participate. That is sad, but we understand, Tazuna sighed before reaching into a sack on the ground and handing it to Naruto. You never brought it up, so I assumed you had forgotten, but this is what my friend left. It's sealed from what I could tell, so I have not seen what's inside, but I believe it is a weapon. Naruto took it with a nod and placed it in his pack as he was in no rush to look at what was inside. Appreciate it, old man. So, while on the topic of leaving, Kakashi started before looking at Zabuza. Where will you be going? The kid offered us a place on his island, Zabuza answered before Naruto could stop him. The blonde looked up at the swordsman with a look that basically just said fuck it all before he looked at his sensei's confused stare. Sakura looked confused but did not vocalize it, while Sasuke rolled his eyes without believing anything. Zabuza smirked and acted shocked. Was that a secret? Naruto sighed and shook his head. I would have liked to have more time to explain, but thanks for speeding up the process. No problem, kid, Zabuza chuckled. This is why you have no eyebrows. The man twitched and looked ready to fight Naruto again, but was held back by Haku. Naruto smirked in triumph before turning to his sensei. Yeah, I offered them a place on a large archipelago. Who would give you an island? Sasuke scoffed. It's called inheriting it from my dead clan, Naruto bit back, giving a glare to his moody teammate. Go eat chocolate while on your period, bastard. Enough, Kakashi sighed before his students could go any further. Naruto, that island is in ruins. No, it's not, Naruto answered immediately. I have been rebuilding it. Oji-sama knows that I have been funding something big, he just doesn't know everything going on. Although, now that you know, and I'm sure you will include it in your debriefing how our former enemy is now living on my island, I will have to share the rest of what I have been doing with him. The man shook his head and decided to tackle that news when it came up next. Preferably, with the Hokage around. Be careful. Protection is not a foreign concept to me, Kakashi-sensei, I just choose when to acknowledge it. Naruto gave a not-so-subtle wink to Haku before laughing at her blush and the swordsman's twitching. I'm gonna kill you, Zabuza roared, which only made Naruto laugh louder. Naruto walked on a trail through the forest before coming to a familiar clearing, the farm, with the house now completely burnt down. The blonde followed the trail to an oak tree that stood tall, finding 5 graves. The headstones didn't have any names or anything, but he knew who they were for all the same. Kneeling down, Naruto cleared a few fallen twigs and leaves from the graves, brushing off the headstones as well. He just looked at them, his eyes going back to the middle one as tears started forming. I'm going to be leaving today. My team and I completed our mission. The village is finally free. Naruto took a shaky breath as he wiped his eyes. I want you to know I made the bastard suffer. I finished off Gato and everyone can have peace, again everyone but you. The blonde hung his head as he cried now, his body shaking as he fought the sobs from escaping. I'm sorry I couldn't hold on to my promise. I really tried, but it wasn't enough. I don't know if you forgive me or if you are cursing me, but I deserve nothing less than your judgment. Naruto bowed his head to the graves, his fingers clenching through the dark dirt. I applied seals to your grave so that they won't decay, and no one can disturb your rest for any reason. I hope that is enough. Naruto gave one last bow before standing and leaving to meet his team at the bridge. So after that, Tazuna had more help and the bridge finished quickly after that. We stayed for the festival and left the day after that morning. Hiruzen blew on his pipe, setting it aside to ask, and what of the missing nin, Zabuza Momochi, and his apprentice? Kakashi looked at Naruto, who was looking out the window. You may want to speak to this one here. Privately, if possible, Hokage. Naruto glanced at his 2 teammates, who were barely paying attention. What I share is private clan business, I'm sure you understand. Hiruzen nodded his head and waved his hand. Your team is dismissed, Kakashi, they may leave. You and Naruto will stay, however. Kakashi nodded his head and led his students out of the room, both of them torn from being grateful that they don't have to stand there anymore and curious of why Naruto was staying. Nonetheless, they followed their sensei and Hokage's orders and left without much fuss, even if they wanted to. Now, Naruto-kun, please explain, Hiruzen waved his hand. Zabuza and Haku, his apprentice, were given an offer on behalf of myself as head of my clan, which is not stationed inside of Konoha. As such, I did not need to consult with my sensei about my decision, and when they accepted I gave them a location to go to so that they will be taken care of. Hiruzen listened silently. Where is your clan situated? You and I both know that your clan, at most, is scattered to the wind, and your old home was destroyed just as long ago. For the last 7 or so years I had come in contact with retainers of my old clan, and they found that I am the closest related to the previous royal family prince. As such, they pledged themselves to me and do as I say. I respect the old man of the clan, as he was alive and the childhood friend of my great-grandfather, and he survived the Uzumaki massacre. Naruto pulled out a scroll that he was handed as soon as he got to the village from one of his shinobi. This scroll is the latest update from them. I already looked it over and found it safe to share without revealing any private information. Hiruzen took the scroll and read the contents of the scroll, his eyes the only thing to show emotion as he found his eyebrows rising. I see, so this is where your funds have been going. Naruto grinned as he accepted the scroll back. I have, and now I am self-sufficient. I have no plans to leave Konohagakure or anything, but my loyalties do not solely reside here. I am sure you understand, due to the laws of the first summit. Hiruzen nodded, but his aide, Iruka, was confused by this as he refrained from looking at the scroll and had been writing out payments to teams that have completed missions. A shinobi cannot have any loyalties to any other village, rival, or ally. It causes a conflict of interest. For the most part that would be true, sensei, but during the first summit, it was deemed necessary for clans to maintain a bit of autonomy or there would be difficult to keep them loyal to the village. During those times, clans did not want to be told how to handle their finances, training, or traditions, so the summit gave a few protections to clans. To those who have many branches, they have much more freedom, but if they're deemed too much trouble, they can be dismissed from the village and therefore are not given the support of the village. The only stipulation is that a clan cannot give village secrets to any other village, and if their branch clan does so they must be excommunicated or be faced with punishment for such a hazard. My clan, the Uzumaki, are not a Konoha clan and they never pledged themselves as, and as such, it was by alliance and marriage that Uzumaki lived here. We had our own nation of sorts, off the coast of Fire Country, and we had our own military and culture. As such, Uzumaki are loyal to themselves with their main line as rulers, and therefore cannot pledge to foreign powers under any circumstances. Hiruzen nodded his head to show that it was true. It's old, and because many villages have built up trust and loyalty over the many wars, there hasn't been a need for the first summit to be revisited, but it is very much still a valid law that must be internationally accepted and followed. What if someone doesn't? Iruka asked. Then the village will find a curse affecting them, Naruto chuckled. Old Fuinjutsu is tied to those who signed the agreement to the laws of the summit, and should one village choose to ignore it, then there will be various natural or supernatural disasters targeting them. The Uzumaki helped make that specific seal, and it was used on their official contracts to prevent anyone from backing out or taking advantage of them. Iruka gulped, nervously glancing at the others. Did I ever tell you how scary your clan is, Naruto? No, but that's all right because I already knew that, Naruto grinned back. Now, if that's all, I have a few meetings I must attend today and also avoid a horny snake woman that has likely heard I am back in the village. Take care, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen gave his farewell as the door closed and he turned to Kakashi. I'm sure you still want to talk about the exams. Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha towards the interrogation and torture office to see Ibuki about the picture, making sure to keep a watch out for a purple-haired woman that will surely find out that his team had finally arrived. He wanted the game of cat and mouse to go on a bit longer, if only because he wanted to see what lengths the woman would go through to get to him, but also because he wanted to get the important stuff out of the way before he had some fun. It wouldn't do for him to forget his duties and goals as Uzumaki. Ah, you're back, Naruto heard from his left and turned to see the man he was just about to look for. Ibuki is in his trademark bandana and trench coat, but he sat at an outside dining table with a scroll in his hands and a cup of tea and a plate of pastries. He looked normal rather than the grizzled chief interrogator that has been the scariest man alive to anyone that had the misfortune to enter his care. But Naruto understood better than anyone that you can't be who you need to be all the time, so he can appreciate meeting a man like this instead. Hello, Marino-san, mind if I join you? Not at all, Ibuki motioned to the chair across from him before turning back to his scroll. You took longer than you said you would, I almost thought you were never coming back. Naruto laughed and gave a smile to the man. The mission went from C to A so quickly that we had to be even more careful. Thankfully, everything went well and we came back in time for the exams. I've noticed quite a few foreign shinobi walking around. Ibuki nodded with a sigh. The necessary patrols and watch to make sure nothing happens has been giving me a headache. Already detained a foreign shinobi because he got in a fight with one of our civilians. Naruto shook his head with a frown. I can't understand some people. Anyway, I know you're busy so I will cut to the point for you. Did you find out anything about that picture I gave you? A name or location could help immensely. Ibuki nodded and reached into his pouch and pulled out a small scroll and handed it to the young blonde. This came about 3 hours ago from the daimyo's head scientist. When Naruto took it, he continued. The basic explanation is that it is a research facility looking into creating its own summonable creatures. She is the lead detaining personnel that is meant to stop anything from going awry. Her name is Honoka, no last name, but due to some irregularities I think she is related to you. Irregularities how? Naruto asked while pocketing the scroll after taking a brief look through it. Enhanced chakra, a sensor, and a natural with Fuinjutsu, Ibuki answered and gave a look at Naruto. I have no need to know why you wanted to know about her and the island, as I am sure it is something simple like finding your lost family. For that, and my respect for you, I will not ask anything about your reasons and such. I appreciate it, Marino-san, Naruto bowed briefly before standing up. Before I leave, have you seen or know where Anko is? She will be getting off her shift soon, Ibuki answered without looking from his scroll. Understood, Naruto smiled before walking off. Honoka is likely related to me, and she is on a remote island between Kirigakyu and the mainland. The island is protected by the fire daimyo. If we do anything wrong or show any type of aggression, we may very well be inciting a war with the royal family. Good thing we will have the Whirling Tide unit to handle it. The Whirling Tide is a nickname for a branch in the Uzumaki shinobi forces since centuries before the formation of hidden villages, and they specialized in kidnapping and small group rescues in hostile territory. They were especially invaluable during the First Shinobi World War when many villages and foreign powers wanted the Uzumaki blood for their own. Many women had been kidnapped and forcefully raped, and most of them had been rescued and taken back home where they either gave birth and created a branch line, a separate clan, or aborted the fetus. The people that could not be saved were few, and that is mostly because their names had been changed and hidden, causing difficulties to launch a rescue operation as they did not want to risk getting the wrong people. One family thought to be a descendant of such Uzumaki blood is the Terumi clan in Iwagakure. Just before the Second Shinobi War, they suddenly had an entire generation with unique Kekkei Genkai, lava, boil, sensors, you name it, they started gaining it. Uzumaki blood can be the only explanation. Deciding he will use the sealed message book to contact Jinrei, he put the thought to the side as he reached his next location, the bounty office of Konohagakure. It was controversial to have this organization inside Konoha. As a shinobi village, it created problems as many shinobi in the ranks have high bounties on their heads for some reason or another from other nations. However, to operate in the village they cannot issue or accept the bounties of native shinobi unless they are missing nin, and even then they are having to notify the Hokage offices whenever a bounty has been cashed in. Because of the stipulations, it isn't the most popular in terms of bounty offices compared to those around the continent, but they are still pretty busy most of the time. The store is run by 5 individuals but is particularly owned by one of Naruto's cousin clan's descendants, Paul Greyrat, the son of a surviving Uzumaki retainer, a bounty hunter who is one of the only non-shinobi to have reached S rank, and a master of 3 sword styles. He has 3 children and 2 wives. The other 5 who staff the bounty office are his previous traveling companions, altogether being A rank or S rank people. One is Paul's first wife, Zenith Greyrat, who is skilled in old ways of healing that were lost to time upon the advent of chakra thousands of years ago. The only place that trains these mystical arts are in the unexplored regions far east beyond Water Country, where the only place even remotely explored is Sky Country. Zenith is from a further nation called Demon Country. The mother of 2 of Paul's children, with the oldest, Rudius, being a good kid around Naruto's age, and her youngest Norn, an adorable girl 10 years younger than her older brother and Naruto, also has a crush on the blonde. The second is Ghislaine de Doldia, a half-human half-feline woman from Claw Country, which borders Sky to the east. She is an experienced swordswoman, but her thirst for action and testing her abilities makes her restless at the simple life, and she often goes on bounties herself to sate the desire. She is an aggressive and impassive individual, which causes Paul to refer to her as a meathead, but it is a considerable improvement from what Naruto heard, hearing that she was a very violent person who bullied a brother she has no longer seen in nearly 20 or so years, which is also the cause for why she left her village and was found by Paul. Next is the short-bearded man named Talhand, a rugged man from a village on one of the tallest mountains in Iron Country, with a pungshung for not conforming to what people think he should act. He used wind and water magics, which ostracized him from his village as they saw it as useless for a village of miners whose main export are metals and jewels. Add to the fact that he was exiled from his village for being homosexual, another choice that his village didn't accept, and he left without a single glance back due to his stubborn nature. The man is a fun person to be around, and when around alcohol he is even more outgoing, which Naruto greatly enjoyed witnessing. The final person is a female warrior from Honey Country, Elinali's Dragon Road. With long pointed ears and beautiful hazel eyes, her youthful appearance is deceiving as her specific line can live nearly as long as an Uzumaki, with her being 75 years old currently. She is cursed as well to always seek out sexual pleasure, a weird curse to Naruto as he found it an excuse to seek acting out his more lustful daily thoughts, and as such she is also very popular among the Red District women as a regular client. She is skilled with a sword, not the best, but enough that she is considered an A-rank threat to the average shinobi, but she is also carefree in personality and lives her life as such despite the curse. "Hold on, I'll be right with you," a voice called when Naruto entered and rang the hanging doorbell. "Good to see you again, Tal," Naruto smirked as he saw a few scrolls fall from the shelf. "Fucking bugger," a shout could be heard before footsteps approached and the short man came into view from the back. The man gained a large grin as he approached after confirming his ears weren't tricking him. "Lad, how ya been?" Naruto laughed and grasped the man's hand and pulled him into a hug. "I'm doing well, how are you? Any interesting bounties coming in?" "I'm doing excellent, lad, and there have been a few interesting ones." Talhand nodded his head as he led the young man to the back. "Paul is home today with Zenith and Lilia to enjoy some alone time. They had Rudius take out Norn and Aisha so they don't have to worry about being quiet." Naruto laughed as he nodded his head, knowing that sounded just like Paul, as the man was very lustful despite being a dangerous individual. Seems to be a trend, being sexually active as well as dangerous. "Well, I came to see what bounties you have on Kirigakure missing nin. Didn't think you would pick up bounty hunting, lad," Talhand remarked, but led the boy to the shelf labeled a water. "We have a few. Zabuza Momochi the Demon of the Mist, Meizu and Gozu the Demon Brothers, Kizum Hoshigaki the Monster of the Mist, Reiga Kurosuke the Thunder of the Mist, and we have Utakata the Jinchuuriki of the Six Tails. I want the one on Reiga Kurosuke." Naruto and Talhan looked back to see a young woman standing at the threshold between the front and back, with long red hair and dark eyes. She is relatively short and only reached up to Naruto's chin. Naruto recognized this woman from studying the dangerous ninja from other villages as Amayuri Ringo, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Hidden Mist, but she was declared dead by her village nearly 5 years ago. It's rude to interrupt, you know. The woman flashed a sharp-teethed smile at him before turning back to Talhan. I insist on taking that bounty on Reiga. When Talhan looked at Naruto, seeing as he was the first one to come to look at the bounties, the blonde shrugged and let the man walk forward with the scroll for Reiga. All right, girl, I need you to fill out this paperwork. The paperwork is simple: the name of the bounty hunter who is taking the mission, a blood fingerprint, as well as any other person that will be splitting the reward for the bounty. No identification is ever taken, as many bounty hunters are former shinobi and want to remain anonymous, so pseudonyms were used most of the time, and some bounty hunters are also missing nin with bounties as well. Naruto watched the process, keeping his eye on the supposedly dead woman. From what he could remember, she is the previous owner of the Kiba swords that are now in the possession of Reiga, which most likely explains why she wants to go after him, but she is also a very bloodthirsty woman, which is not surprising considering she graduated around the same time as Zabuza Momochi and their graduation ceremony was a literal deathmatch. She is known for dragging out fights to prolong suffering and sate her bloodthirst, which only makes her even more dangerous to those around her. It is the reason why for the 5 years she was part of the swordsmen she never had a partner, as the times she did they always ended up dead at some point. Just a quick question, Ringo-san, Naruto said before the woman could grab the scroll with mission notes. Can I just confirm, but are you trying to regain the Kiba swords that previously belonged to you? The woman paused to get a good look at the blonde and nodded her head. That bastard kept what is not his, and if he can take those weapons because he feels like he deserves them, then I think that they should belong to me. Unlike that bastard, I remained loyal to that traitorous village. With that, the woman turned to leave. But before the woman could open the door and leave, Naruto stated one last time, if you ever need a place to settle down and do your business, whatever it may be, seek me out here again, and I will give you an offer too good to refuse. At the woman turning to look at him, he flashed a bright smile that spoke of no deceit before she grinned and turned to leave without a second glance. Talhan chuckled at the blonde. Now that the Missy is gone, is there anything else needed? Just turning in the bounty for the demon brothers, Naruto said as he pulled the scroll from his pouch that he took from Kakashi to cash in. Split it 4 ways, my team and I took them down together. The short man nodded and went to do as needed to confirm their identities and divvy out the payments. Just one moment, lad. Knowing that he will be waiting for half an hour at most, Naruto went to sit in the small lounge area. He had just sat down when the door opened. Uncle Tal. Naruto laughed as he heard the young girls' voices, and just as he expected, Aisha and Norn came rushing in. Girls! Look how big you are! The girls gasped and ran at Naruto just as Rudius walked inside, tackling the sitting Uzumaki with a squeal. Naruto! Ha ha ha, Naruto laughed as he hugged the girls that were strewn over him. It's good to see you. How have you been? Staying in trouble, I hope. You mean out of trouble, Rudius corrected with a grin. I meant what I said, Naruto smirked at the boy. How have you been, Rudy? Still learning with Mom, but hopefully I will be able to go traveling soon. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. You'll get there, don't worry. You're headstrong. Naruto, don't ignore us. Naruto laughed at the young girls' pouts and hugged them more. I could never ignore you, girls. Good. They shouted with proud grins. Naruto shook his head in amusement and listened to the girls tell him all about what they've been up to lately, mostly small things like learning the basics of magic and being a maid in Aisha's case, and he listened attentively while also asking Rudius about him. He is more simple, as he is being trained by his father to wield a sword in one of the styles while his mother taught him more magic. All set, lad, Talhan said as he came to the front but stopped when he saw Paul's children. Kids, what are you doing here? We came to visit you. Aisha giggled as she and Norn approached the man to give him a hug, getting a small one in return as he still held the 4 bags of money. Here, lad, Talhan said as he handed the gold over. Thank you, Tal, stay safe girls, Rudy, Naruto waved before leaving. Naruto took the time to walk to each of his teammates' places to give them their gold. He gave Sakura's father the money as he was the one to open the door. However, looking for his male teammate quickly got annoying as the Ucha district is a ghost town and he couldn't find the Ucha at the main house or any of the nearby houses. It was clear the boy wasn't there. He decided to leave the money in a seal on the door to the main house that seemed the most used that would activate upon opening and triggering the seal parameters. He wasn't going to go on a manhunt for his emotional teammate and made his way to Kakashi's place, which resided in the middle of the southeast district, close to Anko. I wonder if she will see me by then. Naruto chuckled to himself at the thought of being found by the woman. He had heard Kyuubi chuckle rather mischievously before he felt a few pairs of eyes on him. While that is not much for concern, as many villagers still stared at him with that or they gave Sasuke after the Uchiha massacre that sickens his stomach, what does concern him is the amount of killing intent he can sense directed at him. Interesting to feel hate for you specifically after so long. Indeed, the last time we felt this kind of intent was before I revealed my heritage. Naruto decided to let this play out and continue his trek for his sensei's home. He was a block away before he felt their chakra flare slightly and he jumped to the side to avoid the shuriken aimed at him. He moved again to avoid a water bullet and backflipped to avoid an earth-binding technique. He looked up to see 3 individuals on the roof of the building opposite him. They held no village insignia, but from their uniform, he can tell they are from Iwagakure. You know, discarding your headbands just to fight me does not prevent us from knowing who you are. Shut it, bastard, one of them shouted before moving forward to engage Naruto in taijutsu. Naruto blocked a few strikes before grabbing the man by his jacket and pulling him to the side, using him as a shield to block the kunai sent by his second teammate. He tossed him back and made the hand seal for Horse Tiger Monka Ram Tiger Snake. Fire style, Final Dawn. Naruto breathed in deeply before exhaling crimson flakes that spread like wildfire and lit anything it touched on fire. The shinobi that took the brunt of the attack screamed as he felt his clothes and his skin start burning to ash, and he fought to get rid of the flames, falling to the ground to writhe in pain. Coincidentally, this is the sole fire style ninjutsu that he knew, as he found that he had a hard time learning that specific nature. It made sense when he realized that he had affinities for earth, lightning, and water natures. Turning to the side, Naruto grabbed a shuriken and tossed it at the third and most frozen teammate of the trio, using the mass shadow technique to make the single shuriken turn into a few dozen. The shinobi had realized the attack just in time to avoid death, but his right leg was not so lucky and 4 kunai stuck out of the limb. He landed with a yelp of pain next to his teammate, making the young man look at him in worry before facing the Uzumaki once more. You'll pay for Soru's death. You didn't have to do this, you made it a fight to the death when you attacked me unprovoked. I sensed you 15 minutes ago following me, I gave you the chance to walk away. I am no longer responsible for your health. You can't lie to us. We know you're the bastard spawn of the Yellow Flash. My parents were actually married, thank you very much, Naruto stated, causing the man to get angrier. You don't deny it. If we kill you, our village will praise our names even if we die after. We will have done what could not be done to your father. You're not threatening anyone, Naruto gave a deadpan stare at the bravado displayed. I killed one of your teammates, injured the other, and there is only you. Do you really think that you can kill me when you are outnumbered? Outnumbered? Are you blind? There's 1.5 of you, Naruto trailed off and looked around at the building rooftops. And about 30 of us. That's when the Iwa shinobi realized his mistakes. During their shouting, they missed the element of surprise, and any shinobi in this district will have felt and heard their attack. Looking around, he gulped as he looked at the Anbu and Jonin that now stared down at them, prepared to make a move if they did anything. Why, you coward? You waited for help to come. No, I let you drone on about your honor and reward if you were to defeat me, Naruto shrugged. You let yourselves get caught. Now that I don't have to worry about you anymore, enjoy the tea department and make sure to ask for Anko. She'll treat you nicely. Naruto is finally home after a long day of dealing with the fiasco that was the attack on his life by 3 Iwa genin. He had to give a report to the Anbu that approached him as the surviving shinobi were detained, and Kakashi had also arrived among the Jonin and Anbu. He was proud of his students' thinking, as there was already some possible backlash for killing a foreign shinobi, but the fact that he let the other 2 live and be apprehended allowed for deterrence of any call for compensation. He gave his sensei his share of the bounty before bidding farewell, saying he was tired and wanted to rest in his home. The man had agreed that he should get some rest and bid him farewell. When he finally made it home, he took a much-needed hot shower and dressed in comfortable sleeping robes before entering his workroom. The room held a few shelves of books and scrolls that he took interest in learning, whether it was skill or notes from previous Uzumaki princes, as well as a desk that held the communication scroll and the sealed book. The communication scroll is straightforward. It is a scroll that is littered with seals on the back that allow for it to communicate with a single paired scroll. It allows for easy communication between two individuals, which Naruto used to keep in contact with Jiraiya for any important matters and relay orders while he stayed in Konoha. They can't use it as their main source of information as what they write doesn't disappear or anything, so they have a limited amount of space before they would have to make another one. It is certainly handy and an Uzumaki secret. The sealed book is a book containing 350 pages of Uzumaki clan secret techniques, Fuinjutsu, ninjutsu, kinjutsu, taijutsu, and kenjutsu. Many are created by various generations and catalogued for future learning, but there are also dangerous techniques that are deemed dangerous to public knowledge. While many are pretty standard for clan secrets, like the Hyuga with their clan taijutsu and fighting techniques, the Uzumaki were fighters of the mind, and as such many of their Fuinjutsu is their scariest techniques. One of the most unique and dangerous techniques that Naruto had read from the book is an Uzumaki clan secret Fuinjutsu seal, the special transference seal. While it sounds harmless, what it does is anything but that. Two seals are applied to two individuals' bodies, the giver and the receiver. Once activated by a third person, the seal transfers the genetic mutation of the giver and gives it to the receiver, applying that to the existing genes of the receiver. This came at the cost of the giver's life, killing them. The Uzumaki developed this to see if special abilities like Kekkei Genkai, Kekkei Mora, and even Dojutsu could be transferred between lineages. They succeeded, but because the giver ended up dying they deemed it a failure and locked the technique away so it wouldn't be abused. Naruto thought of the repercussions if such a technique were to get into the wrong hands. The Hyuga incident would have gone a lot differently if they had this in their hands. Sighing, Naruto finished relaying his orders to Jinrei to send a whirling tide unit to approach Honoka. He set the brush aside and looked at the paper to his right that had the words in bold Chunin exam application. According to the paper, he had to sign the paper, and once received by the Hokage he would be entered into the exams. However, under the stipulations, they must be in teams of 3 and they will not be accepted if all 3 are not in attendance. That's where his concern now lies. Sakura has been a little quiet since the mission to Wave. While not like when it first happened, she is still horrified by the deaths of Meizu and Gozu even if she denies it. So whether she will attend the exams or get cold feet remains to be seen, but if he's honest he would be pissed if she ruined this for him. To be Chunin gives him some freedoms and liberties that he doesn't otherwise have as a genin, and he needed that to continue on the next step of restoring his clan. Deciding to leave it for tomorrow when they would hand in their applications, he turned off the light in the workroom and walked to his bedroom to get some much-needed sleep. Big bro. Naruto smiled and turned around to see Konohamaru running to him with his 2 friends, Udon and Mogi, on his heels. The young boy skidded to a stop in front of the blonde and grinned, his friends not looking as enthusiastic but were nonetheless happy to see the older boy. He was, after all, like an older brother to them and they looked up to him in such high regard despite their Jonin instructor having lesser opinions of him. "How are YA doing?" Naruto asked them with a smile as he patted each of their heads. "Staying in trouble, I hope." They all nodded their heads, Konohamaru shouting, "In trouble, but never caught." "Just like you said." Naruto grinned at that, as it is one of the things he always teaches to kids that he ends up meeting and making an impression on. "That's what I like to hear. Are you just passing by or are you up to coming to have some Ichiraku ramen with me? It's my treat." "Yeah!" they shouted with a fist pump to the air. Naruto laughed as he led the 3 kids to his favorite food stand and watched as they ran ahead and took the shortcut through the alley. However, as soon as Konohamaru took the turn there was a sound of impact and a shout. "Watch it, kid!" Naruto began walking faster as he saw Udon and Mogi cowering just outside the alley. He didn't like people who scared kids, no matter their reason, and he approached the threshold to see 2 individuals. One is a man in a black outfit with makeup on his face who grabbed Konohamaru by the neck of his shirt, and the other is a blonde girl with a large fan on her back. "Put him down, Kankuro, he looks like he's gonna piss himself." The girl tried to sound condescending, but there was an amused twitch dancing along her lips. "Hold on, Temari, let me teach him a lesson real quick." Kankuro, the boy, answered as he cocked his fist back. "Do that, and you'll no longer have an arm," Naruto threatened as he walked forward to stand 10 feet away. "It won't do well to have foreign shinobi acting out against our civilians." "And who are you?" Naruto cocked his head to the side, eyeing the hand that still held Konohamaru up. He wasn't going to ask again, and he gave a warning. "I said," he flashed forward and grabbed the man's wrist with one hand and gripped his neck with the other, making him drop Konohamaru and pushed him away. Naruto squeezed until he could feel the strong muscles and veins in Kankuro's neck, watching his face turn a bright reddish-purple color. I said to let him go, now look what you made me do. I hope you apologize for antagonizing me. Naruto grinned as his fingernails became claw-like and his eyes shifted red with a slit pupil. When he saw the boy's eyes rolling back, he dropped him to the ground and took a few steps back to watch as he gasped for breath and held his bruising neck. He chuckled at the fearful look on Temari's face, but otherwise did nothing more. Who the fuck are you? Do you know who we are? We're the Dash. You're the current Kazekage children, your names prove that, Naruto supplied, getting a wary look from Temari and a surprised look from Kankuro. However, if you think your status will protect you, let me tell you that the boy you were about to hit is the grandson of our current Hokage. If you were to act out on your aggression and I was not here to stop you, well, let's just say wars have been started over less. The duo paled, but it wasn't entirely to what he had said, but because halfway through a new presence entered the area, and this one radiated a lot of bloodlust. Looking over, Naruto saw the final child of the Kazekage, with red hair, sea-green eyes, and a sand good on his back. He could feel the biju he contained rolling off of him in waves. That's a warning to you as well, Naruto stated as the redhead dropped down to stand by his siblings. Kankuro, the redhead, spoke deeply but without emotion, turning to his brother with a dead stare. Stop embarrassing us before I decide to kill you. Sorry, Gaara, Kankuro stuttered quietly and looked down to avoid his younger brother's eyes. Now, while family discourse is fun to watch and all, Naruto said sarcastically, he motioned to the three kids behind him who were hiding from the scary redhead. We were on our way to eat. Now, if you will excuse us. The redhead stared at the blonde and noted his eyes are back to blue, and he moved to the side to allow the four of them passage. He watched as Naruto guided the three out of the alley, and just as they were leaving he said, I'll see you in the exams, Kyuubi. The name's Naruto, damn it, Naruto muttered to himself and continued walking with the kids. We're two separate people, you schizophrenic murderous ginger. The three kids stared at Naruto with wide eyes as he continued muttering about stupid redheads, unstable Jinchuuriki, and bastard foreigners. He had finally calmed down when they reached the ramen stand and entered, being greeted by a duo already there. The first is Kakashi, not reading his porn book, and the second is a white-haired man with a kabuki outfit that Naruto knew as Jiraiya of the Sannin, his often-absent godfather. Ah, Naruto, I was wondering if you would be here for dinner, Kakashi greeted with an eye smile. And you have the knucklehead trio. I offered them ramen on my tab. We got sidetracked by the children of the Kazekage, Naruto answered as he sat down next to his sensei. No problems, I hope, Jiraiya commented as he continued eating from his bowl. Other than a warning, it was fine, Naruto said and gave a stare at Konohamaru before he could say anything. Just reminded them of the expectations of them as foreign ninjas. After yesterday with those Iwa shinobi, I would have thought you'd keep your head down, Kakashi chuckled, but he did send a glance at the blonde. Why should I? Naruto asked before Tuchu approached. How are you doing, old man Tucci? I'm doing just fine, Naruto, the man laughed as he loved seeing his favorite customer come by. What'll it be for you four? A bowl of beef ramen for me, Konohamaru ordered. Miso, please, Mogi blushed. I'll have miso too, Udon shrugged, laying his head on the table. 3 bowls of chicken and vegetables for me, Naruto grinned before the man nodded his head and set to work. As I was saying, why should I have to tiptoe in my own village? You know why, Naruto, Kakashi looked at him. This is the first time in 17 years where all of the major ninja villages are in attendance, as well as many minor ones, Jiraiya stated, eating a few noodles before continuing, and there are also a few Jinchuuriki in the exams this time around. Yeah, I ran into one, Naruto muttered as he thought of the unstable redhead. His red hair is his redeeming quality, the bastard. Ignoring the boy's muttering, Jiraiya continued. He's not the only one, that's just the one tail. There's also the two-tail from Kumo, Sister Matatabi, Kyuubi hummed to himself. He and Matatabi never really got along because she wanted to help humans and he would rather be left alone. The 7-tail from Taki, little bro Chomai, Kyuubi now seemed pleased. He liked most of his younger siblings with the exception of Shukaku because he was always complaining Anko Kuo because she always worried so much. And the 8-tail will be in attendance as the Jonin instructor for the Kumo team containing the 2-tail. Haha, knowing Gyuki his container will be funny. Naruto smirked in amusement at Kurama's musings but hid it the best he could from the Sannin. Nevertheless, there should be no problem with the added security. Considering I am participating in the exams, I can't avoid the other Jinchuuriki forever. Teuchi dropped off the bowls ordered and Naruto and the kids thanked him before eating. As he broke apart his chopsticks, he saw Jiraiya give Kakashi an annoyed stare. I'm guessing you didn't know that, and judging from your expression you don't approve. No, I think it is stupid to have you on display to the other villages, Jiraiya stated. It's bad enough Iwa is on edge because everyone knows you're Minato's kid, we don't need them looking at you for the nine-tail. Hokage-sama already approved, Kakashi said in an effort to throw the Sanin's attitude away from him. He said he trusted Naruto to keep himself under control and that he had no desire to hold him back. Unless it's in your opinion that Jinchuuriki shouldn't hold places of power and authority, Naruto stated coldly while looking at his father's sensei out of the corner of his eye. That's not what I mean, brat, and you know it. TCH Naruto ignored the man after even as he continued to rant to Kakashi about his participation. He never forgave the man for leaving him alone for 8 years in the village, even if it's not like the man sought forgiveness. He always had an excuse that he lost someone who was practically a son to him, that he had to maintain his spy network, and that he wanted to protect him from other villages. Naruto didn't buy any of that shit, and because of that he always kept the man at arm's length, not letting him get too close to try to rebuild a broken relationship, which to Naruto was non-existent. Brushing aside the anger and settling on annoyance, he continued eating while talking a bit to the kids. They decided to leave shortly after finishing eating because they had early morning training with Ibisu the next day and they didn't want to be too tired. He bid them farewell and gave each of them hugs before they left. Now that the kids are gone I can bring up what I originally intended to talk about, Jiraiya stated after Naruto turned around to continue eating. Whether I choose to answer will depend on the question, Naruto shrugged, ignoring the annoyed stare his godfather gave him. I think it best that you do because I have stumbled upon something very interesting. I was visiting one of the eastern ports to make my way into water when I heard some interesting rumors. Apparently, ships have been delivering cargo from an island east of Fire, and the company delivering it is called Phantom Hive. Naruto turned to look at the man, still slurping up noodles with a raised eyebrow. And? Kakashi had now brought out his book and was purposefully ignoring the conversation. He desired to stay out of this conversation as much as possible. It had nothing to do with him and as far as he was concerned the Hokage did not care and even supported whatever his blonde student had been doing. If the Hokage trusted him then he had no problem with it, but he was not one to speak out against the Toad Sannin. The rumors also state that the island they come from can only be the haunted Whirlpool Island that nobody goes near. Jiraiya stared into his godson's eyes. Yuzushio Gakure. I got that. Naruto slurped up a few more noodles without breaking eye contact. Where's the question? Jiraiya's eye twitched at the stubborn nature of the blonde. Are you responsible? Well, I'm clearly no Phantom Hive, so no I am not responsible for the new trade you have seen, Naruto answered with a smirk, dodging the question that he knew the man meant. Are you rebuilding Yuzushio Gakure? It's now quiet after Jiraiya shouted and slammed a hand on the table, having lost all patience for the blonde's tricks. Teuchi now stood still without moving away from the table, in the middle of wiping his hands after washing them. Kakashi buried his head further in his book and was blatantly ignoring the tension he is between. Naruto, however, now stared into Jiraiya's eyes with a dead serious glare tinting his expression. Why does it matter to you? Naruto asked with a bit of venom in his voice. It's not your ancestral island, so what's it to you? It's not like you've been putting in the effort to learn and care for the process that it takes to rebuild a destroyed country or to learn the history that was lost due to fear. So I ask once more. What's it to you? Jiraiya clenched his hands as he stared down at his student's son. You act like he means nothing to you. Naruto sat back in his seat when he heard the man whisper, his glare withering slightly. Be specific, pervy toad. Minato died for you and you care more for a dead clan than you do your father. Naruto just turned away to continue eating, his glare now focused on his third bowl. That's not true, he and my mother mean everything to me. I would love to have both of my parents here over trying to rebuild a scattered clan. I sleep with a picture of my parents every night and I think about what it would be like to wake up to a proud father and a loving mother. To have trained and enjoyed training with them as they would do their best to show me what they knew. That I can learn the raising and from the man that created it, to be proud to have mastered it. If you would rather I dwell on the past as you or sensei do rather than try to live my life for something they can be proud of me for, then I'm sorry but I won't waste my life like that. Their sacrifice does not deserve to be tarnished because I was stuck in what could have been and the never-ending cycles of what IFS. I will not be like you. Naruto stood up, ignoring the hurt and angered expression on his godfather's face, and tossed down more than the sufficient amount of cash on the counter before turning to leave. I don't want to see you until your next visit in a year or so, Jiraiya. Jiraiya watched his godson walk away until he turned a corner out of sight before sitting back in his seat. He ran a hand through his hair before looking to see Kakashi looking at him from over one of his books. Don't look at me like that. You know as well as I the danger he would be in if it was found out the Uzumaki clan are re-establishing their former home island. I didn't say I disagree with your opinion, Kakashi sighed and set his book down. But you could have handled that a bit better. You exploded on him and accused him of ignoring the sacrifice of his father. I'm surprised you're still standing, but I guess that's just Naruto's way of ignoring a problem. Jiraiya grunted and paid for his food. I'm going to go talk to Sensei about this when I get the chance. Kakashi nodded his head and continued eating his food, quietly. Foxy-kun! Naruto was so lost in his emotions that he didn't sense the purple bullet speeding for him from 5 blocks away until he heard the shout and had to brace himself for the incoming tackle. He skidded on his feet as the woman latched onto him like a boa constrictor and squeezed him for everything he had, which was a lot, and it was still impressive to him despite knowing how strong she was. He cracked a smile as he hugged the woman back only to be lifted off the ground and be carried away. What are you doing, Anko? I caught you, I win, I want a prize, the woman chuckled deviously as her grip tightened in case he decided to try to escape. Ah, was his intelligent reply as he just stared at her like a child with her she held him. Your place? That's where my toys are, the woman grinned evilly. Good thing the exams aren't for another 2 days. Enough time for my fun. Woof. Shut up, this is my fun not yours. Morning, Naruto greeted his teammates as he walked up to Sasuke and Sakura while they waited outside the examination location. The first task of the exams is taking place at the west wing of the Konoha Academy, typically used for study halls and taijutsu training while a ninja hopeful. Naruto didn't use the taijutsu rings as much as the study halls where he ruined plenty of classrooms while practicing seals that ended up a bit explodey when not done completely correctly. Fuinjutsu is considered a dangerous art for a reason, and that is why the average shinobi does not learn it until Jonin, and even then it is limited. One time, the academy had to be cancelled for nearly a week because one smoke tag that Naruto was experimenting on ended up creating a tear gas that sent nearby classrooms into coughing fits. They ran as far as they could, and when Anbu came to investigate while thinking it was an attack from some kind of hostile force, they found Naruto passed out. He's lucky he didn't get permanently injured, and the Hokage had yelled for an hour at how irresponsible he was and how much paperwork he now had to go through. Naruto continued working on seals, but this time he did it after thoroughly learning an area containment array that would prevent any gas or explosion from causing excessive damage. We already have to deal with Kakashi-sensei's tardiness, don't you dare start picking it up as well. Naruto laughed at the girl shouting and followed her inside where a large group gathered in front of a classroom door. A kid in a green jumpsuit with a Konoha band around his waist and orange leg warmers over his shins was just punched by 2 Konoha genin that he did not recognize. Landing a bit away and in front of the large group, he rubbed his scuffed chin and stared in frustration at the guarding genin. A girl in a white and red top, and red loose pants that he can vaguely see bandages around her thighs and hips, approached the two as she pleaded, please, just let us through. As Naruto and his team approached past the group that was too scared to approach to act out their own frustrations, he saw the genin on the left grit his teeth, but smirk. The boy on the right scoffed before asking, why should we? Naruto dashed forward, grabbing the man by his arm just as he was about to hit the girl like he did the green-wearing boy before he noticed his friend about to come for him and he sent a kick to the man's knee. While the older man crumbled to the ground in pain, he twisted the man he had grabbed and slammed him into the wall before tossing him into his friend. It's not nice to bully, you know. Naruto walked up to the 2 guys and got a good look at them, but now they were different. It seems that they were hinged into 2 nondescript individuals, and now he can see 2 chunin that he recognized as Kotetsu and Izumo. The 2 of them are C-rank chunin, but because they are childhood friends, they work so well together that they have taken down Jonin together, but because of their individual skills, they haven't been promoted to Jonin just yet. Goddamn, Naruto, you kick hard. Izumo nursed his pain shin without getting to his feet. If we were actual genin, they would have been in the infirmary already, Kotetsu commented as he stood up. And you know that this isn't the exam room. This is one of the rooms you destroyed in your final year. Naruto laughed as the genjutsu washed away, revealing study hall 201, which still had scorch marks exploding from the cracks of the door. This particular room fell victim to an uncontrollable explosion that caused the low-level containment seal he was using to fail. It did bring a smile to his face when he thought back to the horrified screams from students that thought he was a zombie when he exited the room. Yeah, I know, but the group you had held up was in the way. There is plenty of room. Izumo shouted and motioned to the 5-foot gap between the large group of genin hopefuls and the stairs to the 3rd floor where the actual examination room is. Stop showing off. Well, Naruto trailed off with a smile, but he chuckled at the annoyed huff from the Chunin. It was nice seeing you guys, hope the rest of your day is better. With a wave, Naruto began walking off in the direction of the stairs as the 2 Chunin body flickered away. He looked at the boy and girl and flashed a smile with a nod and said CYA before leaving. Wait! Naruto stopped, stepping aside to let the chatting group pass by, and looked to see who yelled for him to find it being a Hyuga who called out for him. Specifically, it is Hinata's cousin Neji staring at him. Behind him is the boy and girl that were at the front of the group who must be his teammates. Yeah, what do you need, Hyuga-san? Don't fail the exams too early, he said before a smirk crept on his face. I want to fight you. Naruto just raised his eyebrows in surprise and confusion. That's it? If it's a fight you want, you could have asked at any point before this, but sure, same to you I guess. Is that all? Who are you? Sasuke asked, annoyed that the two were having some kind of moment that he was being held back from. Sasuke, I'm hurt, Naruto mocked, hurt as he grabbed a bit of his shirt over his heart. After all this time you don't remember me, not you, idiot. Sasuke turned back to Neji. What's your name? It is usually proper for you to give your name first, Neji answered as the smirk fell away. Sasuke-ucha. Neji Hyuga. Naruto put a hand over his face at the cocky smirk on his teammate's face. Alright, you can ask your crush on a date later, Sasuke, let's go. Shut it, Dobi.